And a very good morning to you, Grenada, and the rest of the world. I am George Grant on this, the 8th day of the 8th month. Yes, sirree, it's 2019. Are you thankful to be alive on this beautiful, beautiful, sunny Sunday morning? Sure hope you are. Pilgrims, we have a lot of stuff going on here this morning, a lot of stuff. And let me take a quick glance over on my left here and see who's won the race this morning. Well, would you believe it? I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Good morning, Margaret. Margaret saying good morning to everybody and wishing you a happy Sunday. Bernard Gilbert's number 2 saying good morning. And Loxley Bowen is also saying good morning to you guys. So is Antheorello. The race continues. Let's see who's going to win tomorrow morning. Now, let's get right into what's cooking this morning because we have a ton of stuff going on here. As usual, we're going to begin with the buzz, which includes a reading from the Holy Scriptures. And in addition to that, yes, sirree, the little angel chimed in last night. So we'll hear what she has to say this weekend. And then we get right into our editorials. The 2 this week from the Grenada Advocate, which is captioned, Children are our future. Invest in our youth. Well, come on, didn't you know that? Of course, kiddies are our future. And then the new today is captioned, Messy Levera Affair. Boy, wait until you hear about that one. Yes. Never-ending saga in this country of ours. But still, I'm thankful to be living on this little rock. God's been good to us. As far as interviews are concerned, yeah, we do have, actually, everything this morning could be captioned as an interview, but we're going to separate them and into 2 interviews and then our main feature. The first one is about suicide prevention. Suicide prevention and awareness activities. That's what we're going to be talking about this morning. And we do have a couple of folks here from the St. George's University. They should be here at the bottom of the hour. Just to give you an idea of how much stuff we got going on here, we usually start our interviews 9:45, 10 o'clock. Well, this morning we're starting at about 9:30 because we have a ton of stuff to get through. Denise Lewis is a psychotherapist and an assistant professor at the St. George's University. She is coming in this morning, and she's going to be chatting with us. And I think she's bringing somebody with her. Just hold on a sec here. Let me see. How could I have forgotten that one? Yes, Dr. Rougier of the SGU will also be with us this morning. So we're going to be talking with those 2 folks about suicide prevention and awareness activities, which are going to begin here this week. Our second interview this morning, Fiscal Responsibility Oversight Committee's report for 2018. Now, it may, let me see here, on the website I think it says 2019. Well, it's the report for last year, actually. And FROC, if you will, the FROC, yeah. Committee. Richard Duncan, who's a member of the FROC, and he's also the managing director of the Grenada Cooperative Bank. He's going to be joining me right here. He's going to be sitting in here with me this morning. But we're also going to be joined remotely by Zoom by the chairman of FROC, who is an economist with the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, and her name is Zanna Barnard. So we're going to be touching base with those folks about 10:30 this morning or so. All right? So you'll find out how well or how poorly our government has been doing as far as managing our financial resources. Maybe they're going to be applauded in some areas. Maybe some recommendations will be made otherwise. But it's going to be an interesting segment. Then our main feature. This is where I start getting kind of sad. Another senseless death? Stephan Sandy's Final Moments. That's the caption for our main feature this morning, which should get started at about 11:15 or so this morning. Folks, there's a young man who passed away this past week. What a sad story that was. What a sad story that was. Well, you're going to learn all about it this morning. The brother of the deceased. Come on in! The brother of the deceased, a gentleman by the name of Raphael Sandy, is going to be joining us. And so is Junior George, who is the social media host of a program which I think many of you are familiar with on Facebook, social media. He does a program called Ride Along Live just about every day, as far as I know. So he's going to be joining us this morning as well. All right? So there you have it. That's the rundown for this morning. And I'm going to get back and take a look in just a wee bit at some of the other stuff. But right now, let me take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
In our part of the world, we need to be prepared for natural disasters like storms and hurricanes, even outside of the season. I'm sure you'll agree that keeping our loved ones, homes, and businesses safe is important. So, I came up with a few quick tips to help you stay safe. First, make a family disaster plan and ensure that everyone in your household is familiar and comfortable with it. Remember to add batteries and flashlights to your emergency kit. Now, for electrical safety. Familiarize yourself with your electrical panel, as it may be necessary to switch off the power during a storm or flood. Make sure you install a transfer or isolation switch to prevent your generator feeding electricity to Grenlec's line. If trees are too close to power lines, call Grenlec at 237 for advice. By following these easy steps, you will be well on your way to being hurricane ready. Don't be caught off guard by natural disasters. Prepare now. For more information, visit grenlec.com.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Co-op Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank, and there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
Folks, I don't know if you can hear it, but our air conditioning is trying to make itself known this morning, make its presence felt. And that's, you're hearing there in the background. Anyhow. It's now 8.5 minutes after the hour. We've now been joined by Ryan Jabon and friends. He's out there in Orlando, Florida. Sherry Wilson is also saying good morning to you guys. She says she's back. Well, we did miss you, Sherry. Kathleen Thomas is wishing everyone a happy Sunday. Ricky Periag. Hello, Ricky Periag. Blessed Sunday to all you folks, and a good morning. Peter Bishop's also chiming in. God alone knows where he is this morning. Brooklyn, Long Island, Grenada, Carriacou, who knows? Claude Putner is saying good morning to you, Mr. Grant and class, and a happy Sunday. Charmaine DeLille is saying good morning to you guys. Ernesto Jose saying good morning, Principal and Pilgrims. Welcome to Education Sunday, a program with a difference. Please share. Well, thank you very much, Ernesto. Very kind of you. Kipling Francis is sending his blessings to everyone this morning as well. Jennifer Myers is saying, good Sunday morning to you, George. Happy Sunday to all you listeners. This is the day that the Lord has made, she says. So let us rejoice and be glad in it. Girl, do I share your sentiments. Yes, sirree. always thankful. John Keniston is saying good morning to us and to the rest of the world. He says, Tuesday, September 10th is World Suicide Prevention Day. Don't go hurt yourself between now and Sunday, John. Don't go hurt yourself. You're going to learn a lot about suicide awareness and starting just a few minutes, so hang on there. Let's see. Ernesto says he's all fired up and ready to go. Spice Babes Duncan saying good morning, tuned in from a sun-kissed Grenada. Boy, Spice Babes, let me tell you, it certainly is a beautiful morning here on the Spice Hour. Oswin Lewis is saying good morning, and that Oswin is watching from Brooklyn this morning. Good to see you. And Ryan Jabon in Orlando says, Hurricane Dorian just slammed Halifax, Nova Scotia with winds of 141 miles an hour. Oy, oy, oy. So says the CBC. Well, Ryan, I thought Dorian had just about burnt itself out by now, but obviously it hasn't. Folks, let's now get into today's program. We begin, as we always do, with an opening passage from the Holy Scriptures. But to you who are listening, I say, love your enemies and do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who mistreat you. If someone slaps you on one cheek, turn to them the other also. If someone takes your coat, do not withhold your shirt from them. Give to everyone who asks, and if anyone takes what belongs to you, do not demand it back. Do to others as you would have them do to you. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who are good to you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners do that. And if you lend to those from whom you expect repayment, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners, expecting to be repaid in full. But love your neighbor. Love your enemies. Do good to them. And lend to them without expecting anything back. Then your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, because He is kind to the ungrateful and wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. That's a passage from the book of Luke, Luke chapter 6, verses 27 to 36. Moving right along here at 14 minutes after the hour, here is the contribution we got overnight from our good friend, Little Angel. Little Angel says, oh, she's been monitoring this situation. She says, the glimmer of hope which MWAG, that's the Media Workers Association of Grenada, gave to press freedom in Grenada by issuing a response to the press secretary's statement was dashed when the press secretary blatantly disregarded the response from MWAG. To add insult to injury, MWAG did not see it fit to keep its promise to react to the disregard as if it had no right to do so. The press secretary definitely did not conduct herself in a manner befitting of a professional when, at last Tuesday's press briefing, she did not respond and seemed to have totally disregarded MWAG's request to withdraw her uncalled for reprimand to media workers on Tuesday, August 20th. She did not demonstrate respect for herself and colleagues in the workplace, giving MWAG the right to set the record straight. MWAG must put its words into action by demonstrating that it holds dear its mandate of advocating the rights of media workers in Grenada, and make known the measures which they were or will be taking to attend to the no response by the press secretary. The press secretary's disregard and disrespect to MWAG is another assault on press freedom in Grenada. If MWAG is genuinely interested in maintaining the little that may be left of that freedom, it is time for them to act. Giving up one's right for wrong is wrong and will never make things right in any circumstance. The situation has proven that media workers lack the fortitude to stand up for what is right and to rightfully demand it whenever it is required. Respect is never demanded, but earned. And the paradox of this case is that the press secretary who demanded respect from members of the media seemed not to have that much of it to offer to them. She has once again made a choice to the detriment of her credibility. Unfairly accusing media workers of disrespect and not showing it to them by the accuser is a double-edged sword. Media workers must support press freedom in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. So says Little Angel Pilgrims. Thanks, Little Angel. 17 minutes after the hour. Turn back to the left here. Let me see. Boy, you guys are busy out there this morning in social media. Hang in there. Just let me scroll back. Yeah. Arthur Langine has checked in. I think he's in New York. Is that where you are, Arthur? Ryan Jaban says, suicide is a big problem by USA school kids. Oh, yeah? You know, one of the first things I want to find out here from my guest this morning is just how prevalent is suicide in this place. I'm sure they're going to have some answers for us, so hang in there for a bit. Lydia James is saying good morning and a blessed Sunday to everybody. Ryan says, I can forgive my enemies, but I can't forget them. Oh, Ryan. John says he's already having dropouts in Carriacou. John, I think you need to just get rid of your IP and get a new IP provider. And yeah, that's what you need up there. Fitzroy Adams is saying, good morning. It's nice to wake up this Sunday morning to listen to another educational class. Thank God for life. John says, read the press secretary. The reporter should have stood up and walked out as soon as she started speaking. Don't hold your breath, John. Elton Sylvester say good morning. Well said in the opening scripture. Have a blessed day. I'm with you from beautiful, happy Toronto. Well, good to see you, Toronto. Please say hi to everybody. I guess you Canadians are celebrating the victory yesterday by that Canadian girl in the U.S. Open. Won the title. Mike McQuilkin is saying good morning. He's reporting. John says, read the press secretary. We've just lost Mugabe, and that was a style. Now we have similar. Okay. All right, folks. Let me take another break here now, and we will move into the first of our editorials.
Because your vehicle is a necessity, being roadworthy is critical. Hubbard's Motor Department introduces its new tire and battery sales and service outlet located at Building Supplies Compound in Grand Anse, close to the Sugar Mill Roundabout. Available are a wide range of competitively priced tires, maintenance-free batteries, oils and lubricants. Keeping in mind your busy schedule, this outlet is equipped to provide you with fast and reliable service. Simply drive in and you'll be delighted with your service experience. For more information, contact 440-2087. Hubbard's, quality service, affordable prices.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Quad Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank, and there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
You don't know how many hurricanes will be coming this season, so you need to be prepared. At Hubbard's Hardware and Building Supply Departments and Food Fair Supermarkets, everything from canned foods, flashlights and batteries, to plywood, tarpaulin, lanterns, roof repair kits, water tanks, etc. are available. For over 90 years, we've helped you prepare for and recover from storms. Hubbard's Hardware, Food Fair Supermarkets, and the Grenadian General Insurance, an integral part of your hurricane preparedness plan.
Alrighty, folks. I see that Tessa Barry out there in Trinidad's also now joining us. Now, here's a comment from Margaret in New York. Margaret said, and this is about the MWAG issue that we talked about a minute ago. She says, on second thought, the press secretary was right to ignore MWAG. When one prostitutes oneself to politics instead of standing for principle, that's how you get treated. Old people say, when you play with little puppies, you get bitten by fleas. Okay, Mags? You tell them. Ryan is asking, where's Mags? There's Mags, Ryan, right there. Tessa Barry is saying good morning. Okay, Pilgrims, here comes the first of your editorials on this Sunday morning. It's from the Grenada Advocate. It was published on Wednesday, and it is captioned, Children are our future. Invest in our youth. The United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child spells out several inalienable rights that children around the world are to be afforded, including, but not limited to, freedom of religion, freedom to pursue education and have access to medicine, and to be free of abuse and neglect. According to the United Nations, it is the world's most widely ratified human rights treaty in history, with the United States of America the most visible exception in not ratifying the convention. We know from our own memories that children yearn for guidance, love, discipline, appreciation, and an outlet for their creative and athletic sides. Indeed, observances such as Child Month allow us to reflect on the special roles young people play in our lives. As the United Nations points out, however, this convention does not automatically, yes, Kohler, you're going to have to wait. Yes, Kohler, you're going to have to wait. Okay. Excuse me. As the United Nations points out, however, this convention does not automatically protect the young ones around the world. They are increasingly vulnerable to social, political, and economic problems in their countries. One needs look no further than the Yemeni humanitarian crisis to see heart-wrenching images of children in dire need. While there is still more that can be done for the youth in Grenada, it's going to be a busy morning, folks. Everybody's checking in. Okay. Yes. While there's still much more that can be done for the youth of Grenada, for their safety, to retain their engagement in a curriculum that has been described as, by some as out of date, or even for those without with disabilities who do not experience the educational system to its fullest, these concerns pale in comparison to living war zones or disaster areas. We are indeed fortunate in Grenada that our lives have been spared such turmoil to date. Much has been discussed about children, but more so in the context of the indiscipline and abuse a minority of students direct towards their teachers. As public service campaigns often state, children also have to be responsible and must be reared in structures that give them outlets for expression, while reminding them of the need for self-respect for others and conflict resolution skills. As we continue to grapple with engaging our youth at a more crucial level, their examples of excellence need to be highlighted more now than ever, because there are many more young people who are making a positive difference in their own way than those indulging in negative behaviors. From time to time, children are featured in cricket, football, and other athletic tournaments, as well as art, singing, and dancing competitions. However, we must find other areas that allow them to showcase what they're naturally gifted in, such as building, designing, the culinary arts, and, with a nod to the times, research and business design in the STEM projects. All in all, to realize the articles of the convention, we are also hopeful that more activities during this year and future Child Month celebrations will focus on training parents on how to handle the stresses of life while still playing a most important role in their children's lives. Some public service announcements during the course of the month should capture routine scenarios that play out, where children attempt to engage their parents in recreational activities while the parents ignore or send them off to the other parent. Children are literally our future. We would be wise to invest in them, not only money and resources, but the loving, firm guidance that is needed for them to realize their fullest potential. That, Pilgrims, is the editorial which appeared in this past Wednesday's edition of the Grenada Advocate. Break time. Back in a minute.
Good morning, Grenlek Meter Reader.
Morning, Mr. Meterman. I'm glad I caught you. Last month, I got a very high bill, and I don't understand why.
Last month, we were not able to access your meter, so we had to estimate the bill. This will happen if we don't get an actual reading.
So, what can I do to ensure that my meter is easily accessible?
Well, you can get your licensed electrician to move your meter outside of the gate or directly in front of the house. That way, I'll have easy access and I won't have to deal with your dog.
Ah, Butch.
Yes, dogs can be a problem sometimes. On one occasion, I was attacked by a dog, and police had to get involved. Customers who don't want to cage or tie their dogs should really move their meter and make it easily accessible.
Well, I'll consider that.
Thank you.
Grenlec, energizing our Grenada.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
All right, I'll tell you what, we've now been joined by Chester Simon. He's all the way out there in Zurich, Switzerland. And Margaret has a passing comment on that editorial we just read to you from the Grenada Advocate. She says, "Thank you very much to the Advocate for that editorial. Our children can do more than dance and sing. It's high time we showcase the other aspects and abilities." Absolutely, Max, absolutely. Now, folks, before I read the editorial, take a look. See, there are my two guests. There are my two smiling guests, all saddled up and ready to go. We're just going to read the editorial from the Newell, by the way. Ryan says, "Bullying and suicide amongst USA school kids is sad." We're going to talk about that in a wee bit. But first, here comes your editorial from the New Today. This was published on Friday, and it is captioned, "Messy Levera Affair." The New Today is extremely concerned about the contents of documents filed in the Supreme Court Registry with respect to the current dispute between the developers of the Levera project, the Grenadian Citizen Development Limited, that's GCDL, and owners of the 256-acre property, the Levera Resort Development Limited. The local courts will have to adjudicate on the case in which GCDL, involving brothers Robert and Randy Olson from Utah in the United States, have sued a local lawyer along with LRDL, in which British investor Paul Taylor and local businessman Leighton Randani are the principal operators for $19.5 million in damages. However, what this newspaper is particularly concerned about are the court papers, including one in which the Olsen brothers, as part of the claim form, reveal the names of some of the 35 foreign investors who poured money into the Levera project. The list includes names of at least 8 persons who came from countries that are listed in the 2017 report from the United States government as state sponsors of terrorism. It is clear as daylight that these individuals were granted Grenadian citizenship and passports by the current ruling National Party of Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell to help lure them into facilitating the work at Levera. This information was brought Tuesday to the attention of visiting U.S. Ambassador to Barbados in the Eastern Caribbean, Linda Tagliatella, who indicated that Washington will definitely be interested in this matter. The New Today calls on Prime Minister Mitchell, who is also the Minister of Home Affairs and the one who gives final approval of citizenship to foreigners, to explain to the nation the granting of citizenship to 8 nationals from Syria, Iran, and Iraq, countries deemed by the United States as promoters of state-sponsored terrorism. It should be recalled that the current rulers used their 15-zip majority in Parliament to make a fundamental change to the legislation governing the passport selling scheme known as citizenship by investment, in which the names of foreigners who received citizenship would not be published. Was this done in a deliberate and deceitful manner to hide from the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique the names of persons from certain rogue countries who were giving millions of dollars to so-called development projects on the island? According to the papers filed in court, 6 Syrians were granted Grenadian citizenship as a result of the Levera project. Radwan Das, Mohammed Al-Hafai, Muti Maruf Bawi, Elham Edibi, Mohammed Sutari, and Mohammed Hassan Pointer. Mr. Prime Minister, please offer an explanation to the nation on how these people from Syria ended up with Grenadian citizenship, given the embargo from the United States. What about the Iranian nationals seen in the court papers, Reza Khor Bahadur, and the person from Iraq whose name is given as Abdullah Hassan Mater? Did the Financial Intelligence Unit, FIU, of Superintendent DeFallo Pear vet these names to know that all 8 foreigners are from countries listed as promoters of state terrorism by the United States? The court papers also gave the names of several other foreign individuals who made financial contributions to the Levera project and belonged to countries that were once on the list of U.S.-sponsored terrorism. Othman Al-Jafawi, Mohammed Ahmed, and Muthana Al-Bari of Yemen, Abbasin Imal of Afghanistan, and Michel Jean El-Azmar of Lebanon. Shouldn't the Prime Minister and Minister of National Security be extremely cautious and careful when bringing Grenada's name into disrepute by facilitating money from individuals from questionable countries to do projects here in Grenada? The New Today can inform the nation that Lyden Ramdani and Paul Taylor, their outfit, collected $35 million US, which is the equivalent of 95 million EC dollars, for the sale of the 256 acres of land at Levera from a Chinese billionaire. It is clear from the court papers that not 1 penny of this money was deposited in a local bank, as the Oversons indicated that all monies they paid to Taylor over the years with respect to the Levera project were deposited in a bank in Portugal. However, a calculation of the sale price revealed that the Treasury should have collected $5.3 million US, or 14.4 million EC dollars, in land transfer tax from the Chinese businessmen who purchased the Levera property under a company which is named Singapore Henny Sheng Grenada Development Pte. Treasury should have also collected another tidy sum from the Paul Taylor Lighten Randanny crew in the form of stamp tax for the sale of the Levera property. Can Prime Minister Mitchell, who's also the Minister of Finance, tell the Grenadian taxpayers if the Treasury collected the 14.4 million EC dollars of land transfer tax, plus the thousands due from stamp tax for the Levera transaction with the same man. What is also clear is that this 14.4 million EC dollars is enough money to compensate those persons who were displaced of their lands in Levera by government and received not a single cent over the years to compensate them for their losses. Are Grenadians living in the north only good to deliver votes to the NNP and its cabal, and not to get any of the proceeds from the Chinese investor for lands at Levera? The Prime Minister should be able to show the nation the receipt from the Treasury that was given to the Chinese purchaser of the lands in Levera as proof to complete the transaction for the sale of the property. The news today is putting the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique on notice that a lot more will be coming out of this Levera issue in the coming weeks, as the matter is now before the court, with both parties aware of the fact that they have a lot to lose over the messy Levera affair. That, Pilgrims, is going to take care of your editorials on this Sunday morning, the 8th day of September. Now, quick visit here, quick visit here to social media. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I don't believe it, but partly you guys were not hearing the editorial. Okay. I'll tell you what, we're going to publish it on the GrenadaBroadcast.com website for you. And just once the program ends at noon today, we'll put that up there for you. So terribly sorry about that. Boy, you guys are being very vocal. We're not hearing you, George. Okay. Take a look once again. There are my guests. There we'll saddle up, and we're going to get to them right after we take this quick little break.
Can I have a chicken lunch, please? Large.
Real nice today.
I don't want that.
But you just asked for a chicken lunch.
I don't have problem with the lunch. Afraid the container.
What is the problem with it?
These styrofoam containers, they don't good for the environment. They shorten with life.
What foolishness you telling me? So what you want me to use?
Put my food in this. Where you get that? At the food fair, where you could get all biodegradable food boxes and disposable food supplies like cups, plates, anything you could think about. Name it, it's there. And they don't harm the environment. Food fair, taking the lead in cleaning up and protecting the environment. Hey, like you take me advice, you get in your biodegradable food supplies.
Well, girl, I supporting who's supporting the environment. That is why I shop in at food fair.
Food fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets. Products distributed by Hubbard's agency, Kirani James Boulevard.
Alrighty, folks. Once again, terribly sorry about that audio issue. We're going to get that fixed by putting it up for you once the program's ended at about 12 noon. Right now, let's say, take a look at the lady in red. Off to the right there is Dr. Cecelia Rougier. I hope I'm pronouncing that properly. Rougier. And the smiling face on her left in blue is Denise Lewis. Is it Dr. Lewis as well?
Denise Lewis.
Just Denise. Okay. Denise is a psychotherapist and assistant professor down at the SGU. Good morning, ladies, and how are you?
Good morning. Good morning.
Speak up, we need to hear you.
Good morning, and I'm doing fine. Hope everybody else is doing okay.
Everybody's doing fine. Boy, they're out there this morning in full force all over the world. They knew you guys were coming in.
Oh, really? Okay, good.
So we have Suicide Prevention Week coming up soon. We're going to talk about some of the activities because I think it's a very, very important subject.
Yes, it is.
But first of all, let me ask you, Denise, how big an issue is suicide in this country?
In Grenada, the suicide occurrence is pretty common. However, most of it is not reported. Recently, in 2018, the World Health Organization has ranked Grenada as number 181 in the world, and they have given us a number of 2 suicides per year in Grenada. However, we want to be careful to note that most of the times the reporting is not accurate, or there are also incidents of underreporting.
Okay.
Yes. So that may not be a true representation of what actually happens on the island.
But do you guys actually keep, statistics?
We from SGU, and we don't keep statistics, but I'm sure that
They're available.
They're available. Like the police would have some statistics, Ministry of Health perhaps, but we don't keep statistics. We go to places like WHO.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now you have the Suicide Prevention Week coming up, and I'm curious. You're here to invite people to attend, okay, and
to be aware.
To be aware.
Yes.
To be aware. Okay. And we're going to be talking about some of the things they need to be aware of in just a bit. But first, let's talk in general about Suicide Prevention and Awareness Week. Tell us a bit about that.
Okay, our main reason for doing this, or for our participation, is to create and to increase that awareness of suicide and how it affects people and impact the nation. And also, why is it important for us to begin to zero in and pay attention to suicide? Recently, the Pan American Health Organization Director, Dr. Carissa Etienne, raised the point that suicide is a public health issue and problem, and it's also preventable. However, we know that the cause of suicide is multifactorial, different reasons and different issues and concerns that influences people's response to life challenges by suicide. And so one of the things we want to look at in that training on the 10th is to address what we call some of the myths about suicide. We want to address what are some of the ethical issues relating to suicide. We want to look at and also to look at what do you do if you know someone or someone comes to you and say, yes, I'm likely to do that, or you observe some behavior that may be indicative of trouble.
Okay.
The International Association of Suicide Prevention is an association of which Grenada is also a part, and we have over 77 countries participating in this group to spread awareness of suicide and how we can prevent it. So it's not just in Grenada or SGU, but we're looking at what's happening around the world.
Okay.
And for Suicide Awareness, Suicide Prevention Month, especially on the 10th of September, which is Suicide Prevention Day, we're going to be looking at some activity that people around the world are called to participate in, and that is Cycle Around the Globe. Where we're asking cyclists, or people who just ride their bikes, to keep tabs of the distance they've traveled or cycled, and if they can communicate that to us, then we can input that into what Grenada is doing
as part of the initiative for Cycle Around the Group.
Okay, so it's not just going to be a one-off thing, a one-day thing.
No, it's throughout the month that you could log hours and distance.
Who's going to tell me about the myths and the stigma?
We both will talk about
You
it.
both will talk about that. All right, Cecelia, you go first.
So some people think that somebody who commits suicide, that it's a disease, that they have something that's basically or inherently wrong with them. And that is a myth, because anyone, whether, color, race, gender, people of all different socioeconomic status, they're susceptible depending on what is happening to them. So that's one of the myths. And I know for Grenada especially, being what we would call a Christian society, at one point a person was blamed or seen as a bad person if they have if they committed suicide. So it was like, it's immoral. Well, of course, we're not saying that taking your life is something that a person does on a whim, but at the same time, we're saying that there are factors that impinge on a person's behavior. So to describe it as immoral would not be fair.
To add to that, one of the concerns we do have is even the way we use the word. We say, people commit suicide. And what we want to do is to begin to change that language, to begin to remove some of the stigma that people have about suicide. And so right now the language is to say death by suicide. Their death has been caused by suicide, and not that they have committed suicide. Because I notice even when
What's the difference? The death has been caused, but you didn't commit it? Because
suicide is termed as a disease and a condition that is preempted by other concerns. And that's one of the reasons, one of the concerns is that suicide become decriminalized. When I was searching for our statistics for Grenada, actually that was placed under criminology in Grenada. That's why I had to go to find numbers for suicide in Grenada. So it's under crimes. And so that's one of the concerns as well, to begin to remove the myth and the stigma. And
so, if you think about it, when you say in terms of a death by suicide, yes, we know that when a person commits suicide, they have a plan and they attempt and all of that. But at the same time, if you think of the factors that contribute to this person's state, that they become so hopeless that they choose to do something like that, it's different from saying, I'm going to go for a walk, for example. There's nothing like cloud in my mind. But at the same time, for the person who does take his or her life, there are factors that are, it could be not so much biological, but in terms of what just happened. Was there grief, news of a terrible disease? What caused that sense of hopelessness that would cause a person to think that may be the way to end the suffering? Because when you think of it in that way, there's more empathy, I think, for someone whose life is ended by suicide, as opposed to saying, oh, that person is just so bad. Nobody just picks up and decide, oh, it's a beautiful day today, I'm going to take my life. That's not how it goes.
There's somebody listening to you guys in New York right now, Margaret Francis, and she says here, regarding the stigma, she says, yep, theology teaches that if one commits suicide, they will not be saved.
That in itself is a theological error. But then we have people with different perspectives on it. And that is why it becomes such an issue even in the realm of religion. However, I dare to say that just by nature of the way we were created to preserve our lives. If I'm lighting the stove and the match burns my finger, instinctively I shake it off to prevent myself from being burnt. And so the natural human tendency is to preserve our lives. And so when we get to that state where we think that there's so much hopelessness that we want to give in to end our lives, then that says we have crossed the threshold. That is not normal, and that is why we are saying suicide or attempting to hurt yourself by suicide. That's not a natural response to life, because our natural tendency is to preserve our lives, and that's why we need to intervene.
I think if you think about sitting with someone who is hopeless, I mean, that hurts. The person is hurting, and even being in the presence of someone who is experiencing that, if you're unable to express empathy, then something is wrong with you. Because a person who is in that state, they are suffering. And we don't say to someone who is suffering, oh, you're such a bad person. We don't do that. So to be empathic and to be able to, what we want to be able to promote is that people know, of course, you know the myth, but at the same time, to know what are some of the signs to look for and what to do to help someone who feels hopeless, so that they don't get to the stage of where they would think the only solution to this pain that I am having is to get rid of it all, including myself.
Do you have people who, probably recognize that, I have a suicidal tendency, but maybe I should get help? Do you have people who come up to you and say, hey, listen, I'm having these thoughts?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah?
Not come up to you per se. A person may be going through a really difficult time, and that's the same thing with paying attention to the people that surround you. You read the scripture this morning about love and all of that. If we are in touch with the people around us, whether friends, family, and we listen to them, I think sometimes we don't listen, and listen with not just your ears, but also with your eyes. No change in behavior, what's happening in their life, and I'm sure Denise could add tons more too.
It's taking time to notice. You notice that this person is a little different than the usual response. Stop to ask, how are you? And sometimes we think, when we ask somebody after we notice changes, we're afraid to ask them if they're having thoughts about suicide. And so I want to put a caveat in there, in that, one, thoughts about suicide are common.
Many people have them.
Many people have them. What is not so common is the threat of suicide or attempts that people make. Because for every one attempt at suicide, or for every one suicide that somebody actually completes, there are maybe 4 to 25 attempts. There are much more attempts. And so we're saying, while thoughts are common when people are in distress, attempts are more common, and that's what we need to be able to prevent that. Also, we want to be able to remind people that not everyone who is depressed will attempt suicide.
True. There are a lot of depressed people.
There are a lot of depressed people who don't attempt suicide.
Or people who have depression, I should qualify.
Yes, people who have depression. And so we want to be careful, because that sometimes hinders us from asking. We think if we ask that question, that might prompt the person to actually commit suicide.
Here's a note from a nurse in Orlando, Florida, who's watching you guys right now, Ryan. Ryan says, unabated feelings of helplessness, hopelessness, worthlessness, despair, and guilt, and major depression can lead to a suicide gesture. And in a culture like ours, where you don't talk your business to others.
Yeah, that's true. And coming from a nurse, if you work in the mental health profession, or even as a caregiver, you're more likely to encounter people with suicidal ideation or suicidal gestures, because when people are ill, when people have experienced grief, when people have a problem that they think they cannot solve, if they don't talk about it, and even sometimes talking about something gives you another perspective.
Yes.
So when you don't talk about it and you're thinking in your mind, there is no way I'm going to be able to get through this, then there is more of if you may say, a temptation perhaps to think that this hopelessness would continue forever, because in the moment it seems like forever. But it actually is happening in a moment. If you just hang in there and speak with someone, hopelessness does not go on forever and ever and ever and ever. It is a period, but at the same time, that is why it's so important to pay attention to what is happening to the people around us and what are the signs they're showing to be able to help.
And to question, raise that question, to persuade, to persevere with that person, like you're saying, right now is not always. And so suicide is a forever decision for a temporary problem or response to life. And so that persuasion, staying with that person and persuading them and encouraging them or even leading them to find help is so important.
By the way, Ryan is a mental health nurse teacher. Okay. Now, here's a note from Margaret responded to Ryan a little while ago. She said, so true, Ryan. And instead of getting help for the individual, we obliquely dismiss their feelings. The lack of empathy in Grenada is appalling. What say you two ladies?
I would say that's a good point, because I think sometimes people think suicide happens without warning. That's not true. In 8 out of 10 cases, when someone may have ended their life through that means, they would have shown in some way or another that they're going through this hopelessness, helplessness, etc. So it's important for us to be aware of that and to pay attention. And one of the things, too, apart from not paying attention or thinking that it happens without warning, is if someone is going through a period of, let's say, depression and the same hopelessness. Now, there are people who struggle with depression as a clinical depression. And sometimes you may have a relief, so they feel better. And then the people around them may think, okay, they're fine now, and I'll go back to my business. This may not necessarily be the case, because what may happen is during a time of deep depression, a person doesn't have the energy to take their life. When they experience some relief, they may be more apt to plan to take their life.
Okay.
So you don't just think, because they have shown some sign that they're a bit better, that they're out of the woods. You have to continue to care for them.
All right, I'll go ahead.
I have been thinking, when, in terms of how suicide affect the rest of us, apart from the person who died by suicide, is that struggle and guilt that the people who remain experience. And so sometimes the reaction is to be very angry, and we may not come across as very empathetic, but sometimes that is that reaction to what the persons and the families and the people who are left behind do feel. The question, could I have done something differently? What did I miss? And we have the what ifs, and people begin to blame themselves as well. There's the anger, but it is the system they think may have failed, or another family member. And so sometimes we have that reaction that's coming from the persons left behind. That is also, guilt and some of the challenges that they have to answer questions and begin to justify their response.
Okay, there are a few issues I want to bring up, but I also don't like to leave my viewers behind.
Sure.
I'm trying to keep them
engaged.
Part of this here, engaged.
Yes.
Okay, Ryan says, I love Friar Martin Luther of Germany, who in the Reformation broke away from the Catholic Church and declared that God loves the suicide victim too. Unresolved depression.
Yeah. Well, there was a time in the Catholic Church when if someone died by suicide, that person's funeral certainly was not held in the church, and they were not buried in the Catholic cemetery. But that was years ago. Now that there is more awareness of mental health, and mental health is for everyone, not just someone who has clinical depression or anxious. Now there's the more awareness of mental health and neuroscience, we come to understand more how people's brain function, brain chemistry, what could happen. So this is not happening anymore. So I guess during the Reformation, when Martin Luther said that, he had a cause, but not anymore.
Kipling Francis in New York. Still listening to you people. I'm not seeing anybody here from Grenada. Actually, yeah, there are a few from Grenada. Kipling says, there are people who go about smiling, pretending to be happy, yet they are hurting. How can one know when that is a time or a need for a consultation?
So there are some things to look for. So when there is someone that you may suspect, something may have happened that ordinarily a person would be hurting over, you look at the conversation, the talk, you look at behavior, and you look at mood as well. So this person is saying this, whoever it is cheerful and they present in a good face. But at the same time, is there an increase in the use of alcohol, for example? Is there all of a sudden an interest in searching the internet to see how people take their lives? Are they giving away cherished possessions? Are they saying things like, everybody would be better off without me? Or I don't see the purpose in life. So despite the appearance, what is the conversation? And if you suspect something is happening, ask.
Okay, that's going to be my next question here. If you suspect something, what do you say to that person? Try to be sensitive. What do you say to that person?
So if it's if it's someone, of course, who
you can both have your say. Let's go with you first.
If it's someone that, for example, I know there may have been a triggering factor, like they just lost their job and there is a financial destitution, so to speak. I would say, so Denise, I know this has been happening to you, and I know this must be really hard for you. And sometimes when people think that there isn't a solution to what they see, what may seem to be hopeless, sometimes people do have thoughts of hurting themselves. Do you want to? Do you have thoughts like that? Do you think that you may be tempted to? Ask. But of course, introducing the conversation with expressing care for the person.
And it's important also for us who are attempting to ask to settle the issue that it's okay to raise a personal question and to intervene, because it takes risk to intervene in somebody's lives personally, and to settle with that concern that it's okay, I am taking a risk, but this person's life is more important than my comfort. And so to ask that question, like we say, let's say there's a breakup in relationship, a particular important stressor, to say, how are you doing? I knew this happened last week or last month, and I'm wondering, how are you coping? How are you doing? Or I notice maybe the person is becoming reckless, less careful about things, driving too fast, drinking too much. I noticed I saw you last week and you have been drinking a lot, or I saw you at the party, and this is not you. What is happening? So you draw that attention and allow that person, like we say, with respect, to open up, and most times people do.
Pro Lucas Ann. You like the names you're hearing here? Pro Lucas Ann says asking the right way might be the best way.
Yes, definitely. People know when we care for them, and when we're not just looking for information. And the thing is, when we establish relationships with people, we earn the right sometimes because we have a relationship. We were with them in other situations, so we're not just being malicious. But there is that sense that we have been collaborating, we have been working together, or we have shared stuff together. And in a sense, we don't say it, but the sense that we have earned that right because we have loved and collaborated or interacted with that person over time.
And we care.
And we care.
And we care.
Yes. Yes.
Chris Davies is right here in Grenada. I think, Chris, you are here. Chris says too much judgment in the Grens in Grenada.
Yes.
Too much judgment?
In the Grens, the Greens.
Greens.
Yes,
Okay. Uh-huh.
Okay. And then Tessa Barry in Trinidad is asking, do we have psychologists or mental health therapists that are readily available to Grenadians? For example, private practitioners in the field?
Yes, and perhaps not so many. But we do have, we could talk about some of the people?
Yes, we have the family life practice here in St. George's by Miss Margot Holas. We have the legal aid and counseling that do have some trained people as well that provide support for people. We have our nurses and the hospitals.
Yes.
We have our psychiatric hospitals and nurses who are also open to provide support. But this takes me to another
point. And you also have people who, let's say, religious. If you go to your priest or your pastor or someone that that you could tell them if you need help, and I'm sure they'll be able to source someone.
That's one of the concerns we have at SGU, why we're also doing this training, because we are looking also at increasing that population in the islands, because again, psychology is new in the Caribbean, and so we are beginning to do more training, even of our religious leaders and pastors, to make them even more aware and equipped. Because one of the things I say is we are a religious community, and most times pastors and religious leaders become the front line that people would go to for these concerns, and it's so important that they have some training and awareness and given appropriate information so that they can intervene and also know when they need to refer people that might be in dire crisis. And there's a way to do that and to be ethical about it. So that's the reason too why we really want to do this training, to put these things in place so that we have more people in our community available and appropriately prepared to address these issues.
A couple comments on Facebook. Glenn Andrew Marks.
Hi, Glenn.
Oh, you know Glenn? Say hello to Glenn. I don't know Glenn, but say hi to Glenn for me. Glenn here is saying, hey, this is real. This is real. Danny Christopher says, this is an excellent program. Do you have anything in place for teenagers?
Again, in terms of the Grenada, the wider Grenada community, that would be the mental health institutions. Like, I know some people, once they hear Mount Gay, they think, oh my gosh, this person is crazy. We use the word loosely, but somebody who is experiencing depression and somebody who is part of the Grenadian community, perhaps who doesn't have access to the services at SGU, for example, you do have mental health hospital, you have the own health clinics.
And we have our school counselors.
Yes.
Many of them, about 10 or 12, we have trained over the last 2 years, and they are in the schools and in the community as well, doing community psychology, clinical psychology in the communities as well. They are also available to reach out to our students and young people.
And I think every school has a counselor.
Okay.
Yes, most schools do have counselors.
Now, you have talked to somebody and sensed that this person might be suicidal, all right? How do you persuade, again, this is sensitive, how do you persuade that person to get some help?
We pull. We say sometimes that a person is hopeless. But if we listen long enough, we look for that thread of hope and you pull on it. The fact that the person is having this conversation with you and telling you something is a place to begin. And sometimes we
So you got to be attentive. You got to
yes, yes. And sometimes you probe long enough and you'll realize, is it that you want to hurt yourself or do you want the pain to stop? And most times they're wanting the pain to stop and not so much wanting to hurt themselves. And so we listen to those little things, the thread. They're having this conversation with us. That is a place to begin.
I think it's important to know too that if you are with someone and they're saying this is what I want to do, and of course you're trying to persuade them, I care for you, is that the way? There are other ways to deal with the problem, but one of the things to bear in mind, if someone says they're going to take their lives,
take it seriously.
You have to take it seriously. And if it means that you have to tell someone else who perhaps would go to that person, then you're not you're not divulging a secret.
That's the difference of keeping a secret versus breaking confidentiality to preserve a person's life.
You guys are staying one step ahead of me here, because I was just about to ask you, how do you refer a suicidal person?
So you call. I mean, in some countries, if someone says that there's a hotline, you call the police, and that's where the training is important, I think, because police and whoever is called need to be sensitive to how to treat people. But let us suppose that's happening in school, for example. One of this, your peers say, I'm going to do this. You go to a teacher and you let the teacher know if the counselor is not in the space where you are at the same time. And that's what happens if something like that were to happen on any university campus. And someone says, I'm going to do this. If you can't get the person in, then you go in yourself.
You make the call.
Yes. And
we make the call. Sometimes
yes.
we have to make that call for the person.
Okay.
They're not in the place sometimes to do that for themselves.
Yeah. Pro Lucas Ann says, did you talk about how someone is more at risk to commit suicide if there's a family history of suicide?
Yes, that's one of the, in terms of historical, that if the person has attempted in the past, you need to be, you need to be more attentive to if they're saying they're going to, if there is suicide in the family they've been exposed to, even on the media. I'm sure you've heard that.
We'll go into that in a while.
Yes, when there is a suicide, especially of a famous person, the suicide rate.
The contagion, we call that.
Yes,
the contagion.
it goes up.
But there are some mental health conditions as well that might make somebody susceptible, which is like bipolar disorder or schizophrenia, where people might lose touch on reality. That might make them more vulnerable to hurt themselves. If they're actively psychotic, that might put them at risk as well.
Tessa Barry in Trinidad says, this can be an area for government to provide scholarship opportunities for persons to study in this field. We need more private practitioners, persons with offices where we can go in and chat, fee for services. People sometimes hesitate to go to public institutions.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons we are trying to build capacity in the Caribbean and in Grenada. This is our second cycle
for the
master's program
in
community clinical psychology. So we're really working on building capacity so that we have more clinicians available to support our people and our country and communities.
All right, now here's an interesting one. Margaret again. And by the way, Margaret works with the health system in America. I don't think she has anything to do with this, but she does work with the health system. She says, in addition to the stigma surrounding mental health and suicide, another deterrent to seeking help is confidentiality.
Yes.
Too many occurrences of patient medical information being leaked and discussed openly by practitioners in Grenada. This has to be addressed, and this is not the first time I'm hearing this, ladies.
This is really sad if that's the case. And I'm a licensed psychologist, licensed in New York, and if I see someone, usually I would say to the person, because Grenada is a small place and I see you outside, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to acknowledge you? Do you want to be ignored? And if if there's a breach of confidentiality, they could report it. But if Grenada doesn't have a body governing licensing and ethical behavior, then they get away with stuff like that. But if they were to do that, they report it to the Professional Counseling Board, I'll lose my license. So what guides ethics in Grenada?
And that's how we operate on campus. You know, our licenses are at stake.
Yes.
If there are issues with confidentiality. And I think that's one of the reasons we want to also push for the government in Grenada to begin to establish some boards with guidelines for people who practice as well. And also our training to reiterate how we do this confidentiality and respect for people and ethical responding, so that we don't also attempt to train or to treat people in areas we are not competent to intervene.
All right.
So being able to know those differences as well is important.
Okay. Danny Christopher says, yes, there are counselors, and I applaud that. However, is there any training for other members of staff in school?
So for example, the training we're going to have at SGU on the 10th, that is open to the campus and to anyone who would like to attend. Whether it's, you know, if you're part of the Grenadian community and you'd like to get some more training. Granted, it's a presentation that day, but at the same time, at different times, we offer training for the media.
Yes. And another aspect of our participating in the awareness over this month is the media, training the media. We want to have that conversation with our media workers. One, understanding the challenges they have in reporting suicide, but also learning how do we ethically and respectfully report suicide without the sensationalization. Thank you. Because there's a temptation to do that as well.
And to be insensitive to what you put out there, and the, you know, the family members, what they see. I know we've the access to take pictures and all of that is very is at our fingertips.
To ask the question, you know, why am I taking this picture? How will this help? How will this impact the family? You know, we don't want to do this because we are collecting, you know, things for soap opera. This is people's lives. These are people that are hurting, and it is a very, very sensitive issue. And so, even for the media, even inadvertently, it is not acceptable. And therefore, you know, to say I didn't know, to be naive is not cool in this profession.
It's not an excuse.
It's not an excuse. So that's why we're saying, let's have this conversation. We want to know what are the challenges for you, but also how we can help you to be sensitive about your language. How do you say certain things? How do you coin certain responses? How do you report the truth? How do you report with people's feelings? Taking that into consideration is so important. Being respectful and empathetic, you know, and not just because it is the hype right now in the news. And then when the news settles, the families are left without help or
and
support,
with the pain.
and with the pain, and nobody follows up because get over it. It's time enough. You know, so these are some areas we really want to address over this month. And so we're encouraging the Grenada Media Workers Association to participate with us. We're inviting them to a training, 1.5 hours on the 25th of September on campus to address some of these issues.
Ladies, I hope you get the feeling from the reaction that you're getting here this morning that there is a very, very keen interest in what you ladies are talking about. Very, very keen interest. And I think that augurs well for your workshop that's coming up on the 10th. That's
on the 10th.
A couple of days from now. Okay.
And then on the 25th for media workers.
The media workers.
However, we're running out of time. I got a whole long list of people coming in here this morning. But I want to touch on a couple of things very briefly before you go. First of all, Margaret says, Dr. Rougier.
Hi, Margaret.
You know Margaret?
I don't know.
Everybody is just attracted to Margaret. She's a character, let me tell you. She says, you have just opened up the can of worms. Ethics. reporting, and licensing. There I am in New York and know exactly what you're talking about. Read the handling of patient info. The question for Grenada is, where, who do you report breaches to? And who ensures that offenders are punished?
And that's what we're saying. I don't know that Grenada has such an ethical body, and that's something that we really lack, whether it is for professionals, doctors, lawyers, whoever, the people who have the information of the public. We have to be treating it with respect. The fact that you're my cousin and I saw you in my office, I don't have to tell the person on the, oh, I saw your cousin yesterday, she came to me in the office.
And
how could we do
in
that?
small communities, we have to learn to create that shift, because it's this cultural thing. You know, everybody knows everybody. But as professionals, we are trying to take that to another level. And that's one of the reasons the Grenada Psychological Association had started this conversation with our ministries in Grenada to begin to have that conversation about licensing, about proper structuring of things, and having people be accountable. So let's hopefully that we'll continue this conversation with the Grenada Psychological Association. We want to create awareness, education, and that collaboration with all the entities and workers in the island.
All right. What, my two parting questions. What does someone do? What do you do if you know someone who dies from suicide?
No, I'm not sure I understand in terms
Okay.
of
What do you do if someone you know dies of suicide?
You reach out.
Reach out?
Yes.
Reach out to
the family.
The family,
Reach out to the family.
And you seek help yourself,
seek
because
help.
it could be impacting you.
Because if it's somebody you know personally as well.
Trying to make sense of it. So
People are
getting help for
traumatized.
yourself and for the family, letting them know that, you know, it might be helpful to go talk to someone, because this is really difficult to deal with. And support, like support, not just of you, but we used to live in a country that neighbors were concerned before.
Okay.
I mean, express concern, not prying, like what did they do, not that, but I'm here for you. How are you doing today? How has it been? And usually we have short memories. A couple months later, we forget the person.
Short attention
Yes.
span.
Yes. Go
So
visit.
to ask.
Finally, what is SGU doing to prevent suicide? I mean, you two ladies are great spokespersons for SGU, and you're going to find that out in a minute. What's the SGU doing to prevent suicide?
What do you mean
Train.
on campus itself?
Yeah.
Well, we have a psychological service
Association.
center, and we work in collaboration with the clinic. We work in collaboration with the Department for Safety.
Yes.
We have outreach to students, like those workshops to let them know signs to look for. If you're
Like this
concerned
one.
about your friend at home, they're withdrawing from social activity, they're not going to class, etc., they come to let
They
us
can
know.
come.
And then we go do a welfare
Welfare
check.
check.
Okay.
We show up at your house or your room where you live, knock on the door, because we are concerned.
Okay.
Yeah.
And after, well, if students have had those experiences and trauma challenges, we do have support. We have a grief group that students come, and we provide support for them after the trauma as well, so that they can heal and we say bounce back through the trauma.
Tessa Barry says, parents also need to pay much attention to the behavior of their children.
Yes.
Look for changes in patterns and
Yep.
moods. This is an important topic,
Yep.
says Tessa. Tessa is from Trinidad. And Joyce E. Smith says, very interesting subject. Would these ladies be on the nation's radio so that ordinary people would hear this?
Denise was on
they
the
have
radio.
been. And we are looking forward to doing more of that.
Okay.
Yes.
And let me tell you something. I am at the whims and fancies of these people out there. They issue a lot of instructions
It's time to go.
on what they want, eh? And there's a note here from Ryan. Ryan says, Gigi, you need to revisit this topic. See, there go my marching orders right away. Yeah.
So
So,
yes, revisit.
ladies, best of luck with the workshop on Tuesday. Yeah, and thank you. You've both been very, very articulate,
Thank
and
you.
I am just very pleasantly surprised by the reaction that you folks have gotten from the audience here this morning. You know, usually they're into politics and that kind of stuff.
But this is about life.
This is
yes,
about life.
This is important.
This is about life. Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks a lot.
You're
Pilgrims,
welcome.
my
Thanks
guests.
for having us.
Thank you. Thank you.
My guests, take a look, take one final look at them. My guests have been Denise Lewis. She's a psychotherapist and assistant professor with SGU, and also from the SGU, Dr. Cecelia Rougier.
Yes.
Thanks a lot, ladies. All right, Pilgrims. Ah, yes, as I turn here to my right, look at the big monitor. I see some, I'm not sure where this lady is, but she's an economist. We're talking psychology. Tell me, why are you guys waving? Do you know each other?
No.
Okay, that lady.
So is that all you got to leave?
I think she's indicating that she's not hearing you. I don't know why she's not hearing us. Zanna? Zanna is not hearing us. We're going to work on that. She is communicating with us via Zoom.
Where is she?
Question here before you go, ladies. Would the workshop be on the web?
No.
You guys should stream it, man. Stream
Well,
it.
well, thanks for asking. That perhaps that's one of the things we could look into.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, folks, let's take a little break here, and then we shall come right on back in just a wee bit. So hang in there.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Co-op Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank. And there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
You don't know how many hurricanes will be coming this season, so you need to be prepared. At Hubbard's Hardware and Building Supply departments and Food Fair supermarkets, everything from canned foods, flashlights and batteries, to plywood, tarpaulin, lanterns, roof repair kits, water tanks, etc. are available. For over 90 years, we've helped you prepare for and recover from storms. Hubbard's Hardware, Food Fair supermarkets, and the Grenadian General Insurance, an integral part of your hurricane preparedness plan.
Good morning, Grenlec meter reader.
Morning, Mr. Meterman. I'm glad I caught you. Last month, I got a very high bill, and I don't understand why.
Last month we were not able to access your meter, so we had to estimate the bill. This will happen if we don't get an actual reading.
So what can I do to ensure that my meter is easily accessible?
Well, you can get your licensed electrician to move your meter outside of the gate or directly in front of the house. That way, I'll have easy access and I won't have to deal with your dog.
Ah, Butch.
Yes, dogs can be a problem sometimes. On one occasion, I was attacked by a dog and police had to get involved. Customers who don't want to cage or tie their dogs should really move their meter and make it easily accessible.
Well, I'll consider that.
Thank you.
Grenlec, energizing our Grenada.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
We are honored to partner with the Grenada Schools, Inc., the Ministry of Education, and the Caliste Government School in providing this library. GCPI program put $120,000 or 66% of the cost of the library. But it's not an investment that is intended to bring a financial return. It is an investment in the human capital of our youth in Grenada.
GRENLEC has shown us their seriousness about partnership, their seriousness about education, and their seriousness about nation building. That local partnership tells our major donors that Grenada is interested.
We have got a big vision at Grenada Schools. We believe that what we can do is, through literacy, have the most literate country in the Caribbean. We are very happy that you've got this gift from ourselves and from GRENLEC.
We see this library as a unique and valuable resource. One of the best things about receiving this library is that it honors and recognizes the efforts and contributions of a company like GRENLEC and Grenada Schools Incorporated.
Since 1994, GRENLEC shareholders have invested over $22 million. This has been invested in the communities throughout Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. We hope this library will serve the students and school well for many years to come.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
In our part of the world, we need to be prepared for natural disasters like storms and hurricanes, even outside of the season. I'm sure you'll agree that keeping our loved ones, homes, and businesses safe is important. So, I came up with a few quick tips to help you stay safe. First, make a family disaster plan and ensure that everyone in your household is familiar and comfortable with it. Remember to add batteries and flashlights to your emergency kit. Now, for electrical safety. Familiarize yourself with your electrical panel, as it may be necessary to switch off the power during a storm or flood. Make sure you install a transfer or isolation switch to prevent your generator feeding electricity to GRENLEC's line. If trees are too close to power lines, call GRENLEC at 237 for advice. By following these easy steps, you will be well on your way to being hurricane ready. Don't be caught off guard by natural disasters. Prepare now. For more information, visit grenlec.com.
All right, let's see. Can you hear me now, Zanna?
Yes, sure. And you can call. Sure, I can hear you. The name is Zanna.
Oh, Zanna. Okay. There is Zanna. And where are you, Zanna? Where are you?
I'm presently in St. Kitts.
Oh, in St. Kitts. Okay. Yes. Of course. That's. Where is Richard, Zanna? Because Richard is somebody who is known, I mean known, for his punctuality. But I haven't seen Richard this morning, and I'm asking myself, hey, where is Richard?
Based on your email this morning, I suspect there was some miscommunication between you and him, because he actually told me to get ready for 10:50, so that the interview would start at 11:15. but your email says to get ready for 10:30. So I've just sent him a message.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, we're not going to be deterred, young lady. We're not going to be deterred. We're going to get going because we have another segment coming up at 11:15.
I would definitely prefer to be with him. I would not be able to continue without him.
Oh boy.
So yes,
Oh
it
boy.
is better to keep in touch and send him a message.
Can you try talking to him and ask him how close he is to us? Because
Yes.
okay, I'm just going to try and kill some time here for a few minutes. Okay.
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 Can I have a chicken lunch, please? Large.
Real nice today.
Mm-mm. I don't want that.
But you just asked for a chicken lunch.
I don't have problem with the lunch. Afraid the container.
What is the problem with it?
These styrofoam containers, they don't good for the environment. They shorten with life.
What foolishness you telling me? So what you want me to use?
Put my food in this. Where you get that? At the food fair, where you could get all biodegradable food boxes and disposable food supplies like cups, plates, anything you could think about. Name it, it's there. And they don't harm the environment. Food fair, taking the lead in cleaning up and protecting the environment. Hey, like you take me advice, you get in your biodegradable food supplies.
Well, girl, I supporting who supporting the environment. That is why I shop in at food fair.
Food fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets. Products distributed by Hubbard's agency, Kirani James Boulevard.
Because your vehicle is a necessity, being roadworthy is critical. Hubbard's Motor Department introduces its new tire and battery sales and service outlet located at Building Supplies Compound in Grandans, close to the Sugar Mill Roundabout. Available are a wide range of competitively priced tires, maintenance-free batteries, oils and lubricants. Keeping in mind your busy schedule, this outlet is equipped to provide you with fast and reliable service. Simply drive in and you'll be delighted with your service experience. For more information, contact 440-2087. Hubbard's. Quality service. Affordable prices.
In our part of the world, we need to be prepared for natural disasters like storms and hurricanes, even outside of the season. I'm sure you'll agree that keeping our loved ones, homes, and businesses safe is important. So, I came up with a few quick tips to help you stay safe. First, make a family disaster plan and ensure that everyone in your household is familiar and comfortable with it. Remember to add batteries and flashlights to your emergency kit. Now, for electrical safety. Familiarize yourself with your electrical panel, as it may be necessary to switch off the power during a storm or flood. Make sure you install a transfer or isolation switch to prevent your generator feeding electricity to Grenlec's line. If trees are too close to power lines, call Grenlec at 237 for advice. By following these easy steps, you will be well on your way to being hurricane ready. Don't be caught off guard by natural disasters. Prepare now. For more information, visit grenlec.com.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try their sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
You don't know how many hurricanes will be coming this season, so you need to be prepared. At Hubbard's Hardware and Building Supply departments and Food Fair supermarkets, everything from canned foods, flashlights and batteries, to plywood, tarpaulin, lanterns, roof repair kits, water tanks, etc. are available. For over 90 years, we've helped you prepare for and recover from storms. Hubbard's Hardware, Food Fair supermarkets, and the Grenadian General Insurance, an integral part of your hurricane preparedness plan.
There's a scripture that says that all things work together for good. First of all, Zanna has just informed me that Richard is on his way and will be here in about 10 minutes. And she's smiling. She's breathing a sigh of relief just as much as I am. Okay? Now, that ain't too bad an idea after all. And here's what I'm talking about. When we did the editorials from the New Today earlier on, remember we had a bit of an issue where you saw my lips moving, but you weren't hearing what I was saying? And I said to you, don't worry about it. I'm simply going to put it up on the website after the program ends. All right? Guess what? You don't have to wait until after the program ends, because Georgie Porgy is going to read that for you right now. He's got a few minutes on his hands, so let's keep Zanna hanging there in limbo, and we're going to be joined by Richard shortly. All right? The editorial which appeared in Friday's edition of the New Today was captioned, Messy Levera Affair. I quote, "The New Today is extremely concerned about the contents of documents filed in the Supreme Court Registry with respect to the current dispute between the developers of the Levera project, the Grenada Citizenship Development Limited, and the owners of the 256-acre property, the Levera Resort Development Limited. The local courts will have to adjudicate on the case in which GCDL, involving brothers Robert and Randy Olson from Utah in the United States, have sued a local lawyer along with LRDL, that's the Levera Development Limited, in which British investor Paul Taylor and local businessman Lyden Ramdani are the principal operators for $19.5 million in damages. However, what this newspaper is particularly concerned about are the court papers, including one, hello there, including one in which the Olsen brothers, give me a break, including one in which the Olsen brothers, part of the claim form, revealed the names of some of the 35 foreign investors who poured money into the Levera project. Hello.
Good morning, Grenlek Meter Reader.
Morning, Mr. Meterman. I'm glad I caught you. Last month, I got a very high bill, and I don't understand why.
Last month, we were not able to access your meter, so we had to estimate the bill. This will happen if we don't get an actual reading.
So, what can I do to ensure that my meter is easily accessible?
Well, you can get your licensed electrician to move your meter outside of the gate or directly in front of the house. That way, I'll have easy access and I won't have to deal with your dog.
Ah, Butch.
Yes, dogs can be a problem sometimes. On one occasion, I was attacked by a dog and police had to get involved. Customers who don't want to cage or tie their dogs should really move their meter and make it easily accessible.
Well, I'll consider that.
Thank you.
Grenlek, energizing our Grenada.
Because your vehicle is a necessity, being roadworthy is critical. Hubbard's Motor Department introduces its new tire and battery sales and service outlet located at Building Supplies Compound in Grandans, close to the Sugar Mill Roundabout. Available are a wide range of competitively priced tires, maintenance-free batteries, oils and lubricants. Keeping in mind your busy schedule, this outlet is equipped to provide you with fast and reliable service. Simply drive in and you'll be delighted with your service experience. For more information, contact 440-2087. Hubbard's, quality service, affordable prices.
Can I have a chicken lunch, please? Large.
Real nice today.
I don't want that.
But you just asked for a chicken lunch.
I don't have problem with the lunch. Afraid the container.
What is the problem with it?
These styrofoam containers, they don't good for the environment. They shorten with life.
What foolishness you telling me? So what you want me to use?
Put my food in this. Where you get that? At the food fair, where you could get all biodegradable food boxes and disposable food supplies like cups, plates, anything you could think about. Name it, it's there. And they don't harm the environment. Food fair, taking the lead in cleaning up and protecting the environment. Hey, like you take me advice, you get in your biodegradable food supplies.
Well, girl, I supporting who's supporting the environment. That is why I shop in at food fair.
Food fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets. Products.
Take a look. Take a look. Take a look. He is here. Mr. Duncan, I just told these people, I said, I can't believe it. Richard is known for his punctuality, and here he is. I haven't even heard from the guy. How you doing, man?
Quite fine, George, and my apologies. There seemed to have been a mix-up as to the start time. So
good to see you anyway, Richard. Thank you so much for coming. You're going to have to speak up a little bit because this young lady over here is all the way out in St. Kitts, and she wants to be absolutely sure that she hears everything that you say. So I'm going to ask you to speak a little louder.
No, not a problem, George.
Yeah. Richard, boy, FROC. First, I want you to introduce this lady, and then I want you to explain again, just for the benefit for those who may not know what we're talking about when we talk about FROC, what is FROC?
Okay, good morning again, listeners. In me on this program is Ms. Zanna Barnard. She is an economist employed by the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank and a member of the Fiscal Responsibility Oversight Committee.
Okay.
The Fiscal Responsibility Oversight Committee is a body that is created under the Fiscal Responsibility Act. So it's an act of parliament that gives rise to the Fiscal Responsibility Oversight Committee.
Mm-hmm.
And in that law, this committee is charged with certain responsibilities. Who make up the committee? The committee is made up of persons who are an economist. You have to have someone who is in accountancy, you have to have a legal person, and someone who's experienced in the area of public policy and stuff like that. So the law is pretty prescriptive in terms of the membership.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of the appointment, we all hold an instrument from the Governor General. So this committee, in terms of where it comes from, how it is formed, how it is protected, is in the law. And the responsibility of this committee is to monitor the fiscal affairs of the state, of the government, with specific things in mind. There are certain rules, fiscal rules.
Rules and targets.
Precisely. And for each rule, there's a target. And the government has to pursue its fiscal affairs with a view to meeting, maintaining these targets. And the philosophy is that if that is done consistently, never again would we see Grenada going cap in hand to the international financial institutions. That's one part. Or will we see austerity measures that result in wage freeze, wage reduction, loss of jobs, unable to borrow in the national community and stuff like that. So the pain that we have suffered over the last 20, 25 years and in recent times would be a thing of the past. That's the general philosophy and thinking behind the role of the FROC. Are you on target? What strategies are you putting in place to meet those targets? Are there any risks, things that are emerging that can put you off course? And we would point those things out. And through a dialogue with the Ministry of Finance, the report goes to Parliament. There is a committee, Public Accounts Committee, that would look at the report, and through that dialogue and through that process of discussion, hopefully we find the avenues and the mechanisms to keep Grenada on good, sound fiscal grounds.
And I think a good place to start, Richard, would be to identify the rules and targets, and then after we've done that, we could use the next half hour or so to find out just how well we did. I see there was some praise in the report for the performance of government. So please, rules and targets.
Good. So I'll allow Zanna to take that part of the discussion.
Hello, Zan. I called her Zanna a little while ago, and I got spanked.
Yeah.
Hi, George. Hi, Mr.
How are you?
Duncan.
Morning, Zan.
I'm good, thank you. I believe that you were asking about the rules that we look for compliance.
Yeah.
We assess for compliance. Okay, there are 5 main rules in the Fiscal Responsibility Act. The first one deals with the public debt to GDP ratio, and it should not exceed 55%. There is no time frame in the law for achieving that target. So the FROC assumes that this target is in effect as of today. The other rule deals with public-private partnerships. The contingent liabilities from public-private partnerships should not exceed 5% of GDP. The third rule deals with the wage bill. The wage bill to GDP ratio should not exceed 9%. The fourth rule is the rate of growth of real primary expenditure, and that should not exceed 2%. And the fifth rule deals with the primary balance to GDP, which should not be less than 3.5%. So this sums it up. In effect, these are all the quantitative rules in the Fiscal Responsibility Act. There are other areas that are required, so we call them other requirements as outlined in our annual report. These other areas require fiscal transparency, accountability. These other areas also require that in the whole realm of fiscal transparency, that various pieces of information are supposed to be out there in the public, or they are supposed to be submitted to Parliament. And this includes the risk statement, the compliance statement, which are all supposed to be submitted to Parliament.
All right. Now I see that of the 5, there were apparently 3 in which there were compliance, and then 2 in which there were reservations and non-compliance. Let's start with the ones which garnered compliance.
Okay, so there were cautionary compliance with 3 of the rules. The wage bill to GDP ratio, yes, but with caution, because when we look at that ratio, it deals with the wage bill of central government and covered public entities. But we did not receive data on covered public entities. We only received data on the wage bill of central government. So we are saying, yes, the central government complied with this ratio, but we are still not sure how this ratio applies to the entire public sector because of the fact that we lack the entire data set. And this applies to the two other rules where they were compliant. So with respect to the real growth of primary expenditure, we found that it reached 2% in 2018. And it meant that there was compliance with the rule, but that was only for central government. We do not know what transpired with statutory corporations or state-owned enterprises. The case was also made for the primary balance target. The central government attained 6.8% of primary surplus as a ratio of GDP. Yes, the ratio of 3.5% was surpassed, but we also do not know how this ratio would have transpired for the covered public entities, which includes statutory corporations and state-owned enterprises.
Stick a pin there for a minute, Zanna, because let me ask you this, Richard. I really have to bring this up. I don't have the world's smartest memory. I'm not very good at memory recollection. But didn't you have, when you sat here last year, didn't you have an issue with a lack of information?
Yes, George, we did, and so we still do. It takes a while for the mechanisms to be put in place to capture all of the information that is required to allow us to give a full unreserved compliance rating on some of these targets. And the Ministry of Finance did agree that they would pursue, actions to make sure that this is corrected. And they have made some progress, albeit not enough. And therefore, we're still in this situation where the data coverage is not as we would like it to be. And some of the entities that have been left out, as Zanna said, covered public entities, some of them are not insignificant at all. There are big entities that qualify as covered public entities that the data is not, available to have a comprehensive view of the fiscal affairs per the law.
But are you confident that a genuine effort is being made to provide that information?
The effort is genuine, but insufficient. I mean, more has to be done and done quickly. That is our commentary in the report. We commend you for efforts made, but we are not satisfied that 3 years on, we would like to see, for example, okay, these are the 15 covered public entities. These are the issues in terms of collecting data from them, and we believe that in 2019 we can get data coverage for these 3. By 2021, we're working on the next 5, so that at some point in time, we arrive at a situation where, but it cannot be like we don't have it, we might get it, targets must be set and, extra special effort be made to capture that information.
Richard, I think your document, your report on the fiscal year ended 2018.
Yeah, December.
I think it's about 60 pages long. I'm not going to follow this chronologically, but I picked a number of things because of things that have jumped out at me. One quote in particular which really jumped out at me here. Much of the improvements in Grenada's public finances have been, by design, from structural reforms and adjustments. However, medium to long-term sustainability rests on lowering unemployment as the economy grows, and fiscal prudence in particular, enhanced tax administration, and efficient management of expenditure. A couple of questions coming out of that. Are you satisfied? I think recently you may have heard, like the rest of us did, that our unemployment's now down to 17% or somewhere around there?
No, not 17. That figure is not quoted in our report. So
No, not in your report.
Sure.
Not in your report, but government said that the unemployment is down to 17%. And I noticed as soon as I said 17%, your head started shaking. What gives?
Okay. First of all, the statement, it's correct in terms of what has transpired over the years. We have made the progress we have made on the basis of the homegrown structural adjustment program and things that have been put in place as a consequence of that. And we said so, I think 2 years ago, that the more persons who are gainfully employed, the more economic activity there will be, the more taxes government will collect, but the system has to be efficient so that people pay their fair share. And, you know, a small percentage is not overburdened.
I remember.
Right? And we also made the point that there has to be proper targeted expenditure intervention, minimal wastage, efficiency in the things that you do. And for the capital projects that you implement, they must be brought in within budget on time, and in the first place must be projects that are well chosen so that they can help to boost the infrastructure for further economic growth and development. So all these points were well made over the years, and we continue to make those points. So in terms of the unemployment rate that you alluded to, the data that we use in our report, by law, has to be supplied by the Ministry of Finance. We cannot go and grab data here, there, and everywhere. And we also, as professionals, are allowed to take data from the IMF, World Bank, ECCB, which are official sources and which are derived from statistics out of the Ministry of Finance, in many cases anyway. So we do not go about, you know, alluding the figures that were made by a minister at the opening ceremony or salt-turning ceremony, or, you know, we don't do that. It's all, you know, within the bounds of proper systematic accumulation of data as provided, you know, by the fiscal authorities and these other entities. So that will be my comment on that particular one, and I'll allow Zan to weigh in on our view as to the progress that we have made over the years.
Zanna?
Could you repeat the question?
We were talking about the fact that recently we heard, not from you guys, but from the government, if I'm not mistaken, from the Prime Minister himself, that the unemployment figure was now down to, if I'm not mistaken, 17.4%. I think it was the figure. It was 17 anyway. And I was wondering whether or not your findings through your report agree with the fact that figures are down to 17%.
Okay, well, as a FROC, it is not our job to dispute the numbers, especially the unemployment figures.
Fair enough.
We do not directly assess the unemployment figures, and we source all of the information from the macro policy unit. So these kinds of socioeconomic data are not really assessed and critically examined.
All right.
We more or less assess fiscal data, which deals with government revenue, government expenditure, how the government finances its overall balance, and as well as if there's financing involved, then there's going to be debt as well. So we also assess debt data.
The reason why unemployment has to come up, you know, is because we're hearing, I'm talking about the man on the street, you're hearing a lot about the economy in this country booming, 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 booming. But yet, to the person on the street, they're not really feeling that boom. And I'm hoping that you as an economist, Zanna, might be able to explain to those of us out there who really can't relate what we're hearing to what we're feeling. Could you explain? I hope I'm not asking too much.
I understood that this is an issue in not only in Grenada, but in the entire world. You're dealing with issues like social inclusion, inequality. It's a situation where, yes, you have growth in the economy, but the common man is saying that they are not, reaping the rewards of that growth. As an economist, I can say that the government of Grenada is spending in terms of social terms. There is social spending, but there is only so much that they can do because there are rules to follow. So the spending cannot be beyond 2% in real terms. So there are constraints for the government. The government cannot do everything to be able to ensure that every Richard or every George, gets an equal fair share of the pie. I believe that individuals themselves have to look out for the opportunities, whether they go through with it on their own. So whether persons get involved in entrepreneurial activities on their own, perhaps, with some level of government support, but not being totally dependent on the government, then perhaps that may be a better route for trying to enjoy a piece of the pie, if I may say.
Okay.
Yes, so there are projects, there are construction projects going on in Grenada, tourism-related projects. They are going to require a lot of construction skills in the near term. So perhaps individuals need to retool themselves, get certified, so that they can meet the demands for labor that the economy is now experiencing. Eventually, there are going to be, tourism properties in full swing. They are going to be operational. So people now have to look at how the economy is moving so that they can prepare themselves for the demand for labor. So we're looking at tourism properties that are going to require customer service skills, various jobs, various skills are going to be required in the tourism sector. People should look at retooling themselves. They should also look at perhaps how they are going to meet the demands of the hotels. The hotels are probably going to demand things like food. So agriculture comes into mind. Perhaps the younger persons need to look at agriculture more closely and look at the agricultural demand of the hotels to be able to enjoy the kind of growth that we are looking at, on paper.
Very eloquently said, Zanna. Thank you.
Thank you, George.
Thank you. Thank you. Richard, boy, do I have a lot of questions for you. But first, let's go to social media. Bob Marishow says the variable export-import is part of the GDP makeup. I am told that Grenada's export is failing and its import rising. Could you furnish the imports and exports for any given year and explain its impact on the GDP for Grenada?
Yeah, well, George, we don't have the statistic. Again, it's not part of the data set that we look at. As we said before, our thing is primarily on the fiscal side, which has to do with taxation, expenditure, and debt. And yes, we analyze the performance against the economic performance overall of the country. The economic context is important. So the person is correct that there is the trade imbalance between exports and imports. But one of the things that we have to bear in mind is that exports are not just physical goods, but tourism is a major export, what we like to call the invisible or the services export sector that we need to quantify. So I'm not sure if, Zan, you have any data on it just to enlighten the customer, but you would not find, that analysis, for example, the balance of trade and so in any detail in the report.
You just mentioned to me that one of your responsibilities or your committee's responsibility is debt. I mean, you would love to see debt down the road. Richard, explain to me the rationale of reducing the debt, fiscal debt, while at the same time adding to it.
Well,
my questions don't get any easier. Go ahead.
But no, the thing about it is that some economists say there are several facts of life, you know, and the two debts are two of those facts. We all would die, and countries will always be in debt, right? So the reality is you have to have a balance between what you are borrowing and what your economy is generating, given its ability to harness the revenues to repay those debts. So yes, we are paying down debt because we have contracts to repay every month, every quarter, every year. And then there are projects that we need to do that we may not have all of the resources available in time, you know, to. And therefore, you would want to borrow a lump sum in time too, which will pay back over time, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 down the road. So that's how these economies operate.
Okay.
The whole idea is do not borrow, as we like to say in local parlance, hang your hat where your hand cannot reach. And that's why the projects must be well chosen, implemented within budget, zero corruption, so there's no wastage, and that's a whole big question in terms of World Bank and how we, you know, get these development aid and loans to do these projects. They're among the leakages that take place. You want to minimize and eliminate that altogether and have these projects run in a way that would help generate economic activities. The taxation is gleaned through the system and you're able to repay the debt. That's the strategy.
So when you heard recently that we were adding another 118 million, I think it was, you felt that maybe our hands could reach our hats?
Yes, because the ratio that the government is targeting that we believe is ideal in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union is 60%, and we are getting there. The whole idea is not to get the numbers down for their own sake. Because while they might be boasting of a low debt to GDP ratio, you might have other problems in the economy where your infrastructure is crumbling, electricity is in a poor state, your roads are not good, the bridges, the schools, and that kind of stuff that require investment. So it's not to have a low debt to GDP ratio for its own sake. We believe that at 60% we are able to sustain that over time and still keep the economy on a good development and growth trajectory.
Zanna, there's one. Go ahead.
Yes, just to add that the strategy that the government is pursuing now may be to get rid of the higher cost debt and add cheaper debts. So you're trying to get rid of the debt that has a higher interest rate to obtain the debt that has a concessional or lower interest rate. Now, just to explain to you George, and the listeners, because Grenada is compliant with, the Fiscal Responsibility Act with respect to 3 of the ratios, that tends to put Grenada in a very positive light, especially with its creditors. So the compliance translates to Grenada being given more financing options. And in today's current affairs, climate change financing is more readily available because of the issues that we have with natural disasters. So because all of these things are going for Grenada in terms of how it's performing at a fiscal level, in terms of its compliance with the fiscal rules and targets, then you find that the country or the government is taking advantage of that low-cost financing that is available out there. So in the long run, you're going to pay less on that debt if you were to contract it now.
Okay. Richard, Bob Marisho says, where does transfer payments, remittances, factor into this whole scheme of things? For example, debt GDP ratio.
Yeah, well, remittances would be involved in your whole GDP calculation and so on. A significant part of the inflows into the country as a source of foreign exchange and stuff like that. So the foreign currency we get through remittances contribute to our ability to actually find foreign currency to repay foreign currency debts that we have. And the whole role of remittances in helping families sustain their lives and those kind of stuff on the island, all that is inside there. When we speak about the macroeconomic context, it gets caught up, into all of that, and we have to appreciate the role of the diaspora in respect of the growth and development of the economy in Grenada.
Zanna, in response to something you said a little while ago in your previous response, Margaret in New York, Margaret Francis says, so if I can't depend on government, then why should I have to pay taxes? And more importantly, why do I need government? Just asking.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, the government has to provide the general environment for investment, for growth, for survival. You pay taxes because you need the infrastructure. You need the public infrastructure to survive, to live, to work, to. So your taxes go into capital spending. That is why you're able to afford or to have all of these public services available to you. But so there's a certain measure of investment that you would expect of your government, and to do that investment, they would have to collect the revenues from you. So that is a given. But at the same time, there must be a balance. You cannot be overly dependent. So you use that in that environment to be able to do business at a personal level, so that you can gain in that overall level of general economic growth.
Richard and Zanna, I'm sitting here listening to you guys this morning, and I'm sort of getting the confidence that despite all our problems, there's a silver streak on the horizon. We may be making a little bit of headway.
No, not a little bit of headway. I mean, we are making headway. One just has to look at the performance of the economy over time to appreciate the progress, the distance we have traveled. And I think most persons know those deep, dark economic financial crisis years. We don't want to go back there. What we want to do is to look to the future positively and with confidence and do those things today that will ensure that we have, never to revisit those days in the, 2008, 9, 10, globally as well as our own country. The other thing we have to look at too is how are we performing vis-a-vis similar economies in the region, and we are not doing badly at all. Choose any of the economic metrics that you wish, whether it is be debt to GDP ratio in terms of how that has come down, whether it is unemployment, whether it is the budget surplus, all those things, when looked at vis-a-vis other countries in the ECCU and the Caribbean in general, we are not doing badly. So across space and over time, we have to give ourselves some credit. Is there a lot of more work to be done? Absolutely no doubt. Good fiscal policy, consistent implementation, giving people a fair break to pursue opportunities that are out there, these things will help in making further progress on the island. And we hope that the global economy does not go too far south, because these things can easily be derailed.
Okay.
Not by actions that we take, but by the impact. However, if we do a good job in the good years, we'll have enough what we call fiscal buffers to ride us through. And that's the whole theory and concept behind fiscal prudence and the role of the FROC in helping the discussion and the debate and shaping government intent where we can.
Again, Richard, what you're saying there simply reaffirms what I'm feeling coming out of this session this morning. But I have to ask you this question, or I'm going to take a lot of licks. Recently, we had a situation where we discovered that there has obviously been a breakdown in the management and administration of our resources. $70,000 to one person in telephone bills and so on. Since you guys monitor government's spending, did you anywhere along the line over the last year or two, you've been frocking for a couple of years now, did you notice anything, any signs that may have been a prelude to what has become PhoneGate?
The answer is no. We are not auditors or forensic, investigators or any stuff like that. However, I would tell you that when we meet with the Ministry of Finance and we probe on certain issues, we get a certain degree of confidence or not on certain issues. And we do that. We meet with them probably 3 or 4 times once we get the data. And there are times when we ask questions, we get responses that we go back and we say this is not consistent. Let us dig a little further. But just to make sure that we satisfy ourselves that what they say the data is saying is in fact what it is. So sometimes it has to do with that definition, with classification and stuff like that. So we have this backward and forward discussion, but something like that, not at all. Are we concerned about it? I would say yes, we are on the periphery, because again it comes back to the confidence in the whole system.
All right.
I'm paying taxes, we have made sacrifices. We want to make sure that when we look at the whole concept of fiscal prudence, it actually translates to eliminating waste, eliminating corruption. Right. And when we see the numbers, we know that these things were genuinely spent on the things that we say they were spent on for the benefit, of the population.
We're running against some time constraints this morning, but there's still some stuff I really got to get in here. First of all, a couple of comments here on Facebook. Renewed Purpose says, this program is very interesting this morning, as usual. I agree that all countries incur debt. And as your guest was saying, there needs to be a balance. What is or has our government been doing to reduce the amount we spend on imports? What are our financial institutions doing to promote more investment in the private sector, especially by local entrepreneurs? Take, for example, the role of GDB. How effective are those local organizations that are supposed to help local investors to step up and make a bigger contribution to our economy? Truth be told, Jamaica and some other Caribbean countries do far better in investing and promoting local investment.
No, agreed, but I'll let Zan take the one on the imports, and I'll come back on the banking and the role of GDB as well as commercial banks and economic
Zan?
Okay. Well, these issues are very important. They are not directly related to the role of the FROC, but I can say with certainty that the banking sector in Grenada is very stable. There has been a pickup in credit. So we ourselves at the central bank are undergoing a number of initiatives to drive credit so that, persons can get involved in entrepreneurial activities and thereby increase growth. The latest project that we have that would come on stream as a pilot project is the digital currency. So there are a number of initiatives, and even the government of Grenada itself has recently received financing to improve the digital economy. So investment, entrepreneurship, banking, everything now is moving to the digital economy. We are hoping that these initiatives really improve efficiency, effectiveness overall.
Zanna, you made a comment I just have to pick up on. You mentioned that some of the questions that are being asked here are not directly related to your role as a FROC. But you know something, my friend? Grenadians are sitting there this morning licking their lips and relishing the opportunity to fire questions at people like you and Richard. You're an independent. You're not even Grenadian. You don't even live here. So you're independent in your assessment, and you're very articulate in bringing that across. But Zanna, there are a lot of us in this place who ask a lot of questions, and we get the run around and run around and run, if we ever get answers. And that's why, you find a lot of the comments, and I'm sure Richard could tell you this, you find a lot of the comments that are coming in here, maybe questions that should be asked of other areas, but we don't get answers. And that's the reason why these people are taking every opportunity to grill you guys. Thank you so much. All right? Let's see here. Kipling says, is there any way to find out if the main culprit in the cell phone gate working for the... never mind. Let's not go there. Bob Marisho says, I give the government of Grenada a passing grade in steering the economy, but the people must be given credit also. Looking at the intangible, like crime rate and investor confidence, I think Grenada is not doing badly relative to similar economies, but I would like to see more investments in human resources and a loosening of the credit sector. Grenadians are complaining to me that the banks are making it very difficult to get a loan. Hey, dump that one on Mr. Duncan.
Well, I think George, Zanna said it, the numbers are showing that the banking sector is picking up in terms of the growth in the overall loan portfolio, which is good. But we have to bear in mind that banks are just about recovering in full from the economic and financial crisis. It takes a while. Banks have been battered and bruised with non-performing loans and delinquency. And we also like to make the point to people that the money that the banks are lending out is not the money that belongs to the bank. It's money that belongs to the entire population who come to the bank and deposit the money. And half the time, when they say, why didn't you grant this loan? We ask them, well, you go back in the village, and if you have the money, lend it to the guy. What we try to do is to make the best possible decision such that the enterprise or the venture would succeed, and people will be able to repay the money so that depositors can have the confidence that the money they put in the bank is there, will be there when they need it. So we take the criticism, but we also want to caution that banks are in the business of making profits, and no bank will pass up a good loan opportunity.
Okay. Beverly Sinclair says, you know her?
I know Beverly, yes.
Yeah, Beverly's got your number. Beverly Sinclair says, but are we taking low interest loans to pay off the high interest loans? Or are we just adding low interest loans to the high interest loans we already have in Grenada? Your turn, Zanna.
Could you repeat the question, George? I did not hear the end of it.
Okay, Beverly says, are we taking low interest loans to pay off the high interest loans? Or are we just adding low interest loans to the high interest loans we already have in Grenada?
No. Well, I believe that there has been some cuts, some drop in the level of debt, especially because of the debt restructuring. So some of the higher interest rate loans have been replaced with, longer maturities and lower interest rates. They have been replaced with more favorable terms. I know that for sure in our discussions that the strategy was to gain lower interest debt, and that would benefit the country in the long run.
Okay. Folks, listen, we are out of time, really out of time, but I want each of you to take a minute and just imagine Richard and Zanna. The administration of this company now, the authorities in this country right now are all ears. You have their undivided attention. Having released your 2018 FROC report, I want you to sit these guys down and say to them, hey, listen, with all good intentions, this is the direction we would love to see you follow over the next year. Let me start with you, Richard.
Yeah, well, thanks, George. The recommendations of the FROC are contained in the report.
Right.
The one I would like to highlight generally speaks to two things. One, we commend you on the progress made and the level of compliance achieved, and we encourage continued progress, especially to get the covered public entities data into the system. In terms of policy, we want to see you continue being mindful of the fiscal risks that are ahead of us. We highlighted the pension restoration reform as a major fiscal risk, and we also pointed out the national health insurance, the introduction of that as another fiscal risk that the government has to be mindful of in going about its work. And finally, the Fiscal Responsibility Act, we are recommending that it be repealed and replaced because there are a number of gray areas, too many gray areas, too many difficult areas, and with the level of amendments and the numbers agreed by ourselves, the FROC, the IMF, and the government itself, making amendments would be a messy job. So we're saying just repeal and replace and bring it to that level. And the last one is that there needs to be a memorandum of understanding between the FROC and the Ministry of Finance such that we can improve the work and make it frictionless, if you may.
Okay.
A main point in that whole thing is that we are insisting that the work of the FROC cannot be enhanced if the only information we have is that which is already in the public domain. We must be able to have access to information and data that is not in the public domain. That would help us and give confidence in the work that we do in the eyes of the public.
Your turn, Zanna.
Okay, I can say that Grenada's economy performed generally well in 2018. As a FROC, we assessed that central government's performance was largely in compliance with the Act. Our concerns were with respect to incomplete data regarding the entire public sector. We believe that in the interest of transparency and complete assessment, more data should be available in that regard. The medium-term outlook for Grenada seems very positive, but as the chairman said, and I will reiterate, there are a number of downside risks. Some are external, others are domestic, and there are also uncertainties because the government has numerous plans for Grenada's economy, including health insurance reform and pension reform. And all of these things would mean that costs would have to be incurred. So it would be, very onerous on the government to remain compliant with the FRA in the implementation of these reforms. We, as a FROC, we promote cautiousness, continued fiscal responsibility. We also promote, complete transparency to the public. We promote disseminating information on these reforms, disseminating information on the long-term outlook for Grenada. We also call for accountability. So as a fiscal council, we are looking at full implementation of the Fiscal Responsibility Act in the long term, the medium to long term. And when we say full, we mean not only focusing on the central government performance, but also looking at or assessing what is happening with our statutory corporations and state-owned enterprises.
Thank you.
Because these organizations can, in fact, pose some level of risk in the whole fiscal framework.
Thank you very much, Zanna. Richard Duncan, who's a member of the Fiscal Responsibility Oversight Committee. Zanna Barnard, who is, she's in St. Kitts, and she is the chair of FROC. Girl, what a big hat you wear. And she's also an economist with the ECCB. So two people who know what they're talking about. Thank you both very much.
Thank you, George.
And I'm going to end this. I'm going to end this with a comment that came in, and you know this person, Richard. You know this person. There's a comment that came in on Facebook, Zanna, from somebody in New York, Margaret Francis. Margaret says, the problem with FROC is that despite the brilliance and competence of its members, and they are, in my opinion, the initial data handed to FROC is already sensitized, engineered, and generally messed up. Questionable data in, questionable results out. So says Margaret. I don't want comments from either of you. We're just going to leave it at that with my thanks to both of you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, George.
Thank you, George.
Pleasure meeting you, Zanna.
Likewise, George.
Come on down. Okie doke. Folks, we're going to take a little break and then we're going to come back and talk about a very, very serious matter which is haunting this country here. Just a wee bit. Hang in there. Okay?
In our part of the world, we need to be prepared for natural disasters like storms and hurricanes, even outside of the season. I'm sure you'll agree that keeping our loved ones, homes, and businesses safe is important. So, I came up with a few quick tips to help you stay safe. First, make a family disaster plan and ensure that everyone in your household is familiar and comfortable with it. Remember to add batteries and flashlights to your emergency kit. Now, for electrical safety. Familiarize yourself with your electrical panel, as it may be necessary to switch off the power during a storm or flood. Make sure you install a transfer or isolation switch to prevent your generator feeding electricity to Grenlec's line. If trees are too close to power lines, call Grenlec at 237 for advice. By following these easy steps, you will be well on your way to being hurricane ready. Don't be caught off guard by natural disasters. Prepare now. For more information, visit grenlec.com.
We are honored to partner with the Grenada Schools, Inc., the Ministry of Education, and the Caliste Government School in providing this library. GCPI program put $120,000 or 66% of the cost of the library. But it's not an investment that is intended to bring a financial return. It is an investment in the human capital of our youth in Grenada.
Grenlec has shown us their seriousness about partnership, their seriousness about education, and their seriousness about nation building. That local partnership tells our major donors that Grenada is interested.
We have got a big vision at Grenada Schools. We believe that what we can do is, through literacy, have the most literate country in the Caribbean. We are very happy that you've got this gift from ourselves and from Grenlec.
We see this library as a unique and valuable resource. One of the best things about receiving this library is that it honors and recognizes the efforts and contributions of a company like Grenlec and Grenada Schools Incorporated.
Since 1994, Grenlec shareholders have invested over $22 million. This has been invested in the communities throughout Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. We hope this library will serve the students and school well for many years to come.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Here we go. It is now, let's see here, 11:45, and we're going to spend about half an hour on this segment. You know, we've had our ups and downs this morning, but thank God we're still here. The gentleman you're looking at is a gentleman by the name of Mr. Alvin Redhead, and this gentleman has a story to tell that's, it's going to make your stomach turn. It's going to make your stomach turn. And also joining us, Alvin is somebody I've described on the website as a good Samaritan. This gentleman is no stranger to a lot of you folks who are on social media. A gentleman, hey, there he goes with a wave. Mr. Junior George from New York. The guy seems to spend all his time in a car or an SUV or a truck or whatever it is you run around in. Good to see you, Junior, man. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, no problem.
My friends, let me tell you. One night this past week, somebody, Arthur Langine, sent me a short video that just ripped my heart to pieces. It's about a young man here in Grenada who seems to have died unnecessarily. Apparently, this gentleman had some sort of incident and swallowed a tooth, and that tooth supposedly got stuck somewhere in his throat. Went to the hospital, I think surgery was done, and it was supposedly pushed down into his stomach where he was then supposed to pass it out. To make a long story short, and we're going to talk about that story in just a wee bit, but apparently what happened is that it was never removed from his throat, and he died just this past week. I want to start by letting you, rather than show you the videos, I've got this gentleman here, the gentleman in whose arms this gentleman died, this young man died. And I'm going to ask him to explain to you what he knows best. Actually, perhaps I should start with Junior, because Junior is the person who broke the story, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, let me pull Junior up here. There he is. Junior?
Yes.
Tell me, how did you find out about this, and what did you find out?
Well, George, first of all, good morning to the viewers. Are you hearing me fine?
Yep, just fine.
Okay, good. Okay, great. Good morning to the viewers there at Grenada Broadcast, folks that's watching around the world. Thanks for having me on your program today, George. As you rightfully say, I'm in the SECCB. That's where I spend a lot of my time. And today I'm actually out and about and getting ready to do some soccer with my son. But to answer your question, George, Right Along came upon this particular story at a point in time when someone tagged us information pertaining to this gentleman needing assistance, financial assistance, to do some kind of removal of a apparatus in his throat. So we jumped straight in, and we invited the gentleman on the program to share his story so that we could raise funds. At that point in time, I think he needed $4,000 in order to start the surgery, because he needed to travel to Trinidad to do the surgery. So he came on the program. When he came, he had a track in his throat. He was in bad shape, and our viewer base felt and saw the need to act, and they did. We were able to raise the $4,000 together with his family. We were able to raise the $4,000 needed to do the surgery. I was very happy about it, because it meant that here is a gentleman that would potentially get surgery and will do fine. So the money was raised and the funds were submitted to him, and he was also happy. We followed this story after we submitted the funds to him. We followed the story up to the point where he said he had to travel to Trinidad. But then what happened was there was an ENT specialist, an ear and throat specialist, who were in Grenada. So that basically he did not have to travel to Trinidad anymore, because the ENT specialist was in Grenada. He was happy about it. He went ahead and he did the surgery. He did the surgery. The surgery was to remove a flipper or a teeth, a false teeth, that was placed on his front that was swallowed. So the surgery was to remove that from his windpipe that was preventing him from breathing properly. As far as what he told us, the ENT specialist went through the procedures, they did the necessary x-ray, and they told him that they would have put an apparatus in his throat that would move the foreign body away from the danger zone, and then he would normally pass it out through normal body procedures. So after the surgery was conducted, we met with him again. I personally came to Grenada and I met with him. At the time, he was looking very happy. We was actually doing push-ups. We ran up the stairs, and I was happy for Sandy. Only to find out just a few days ago that he died. So my question was, how did he die? He appeared so well off. He was doing well after the surgery. What happened? I know I'm cutting through a lot of pieces of the story because it's a long extended story, but to cut it short, found out that he died from the same tooth that was supposed to have been removed during the surgery. And for the life of me, I couldn't understand what was happening. How is it that it was removed? I spoke to his brother who was there with you that explained to me that after he died, they did an autopsy, and the autopsy revealed that the foreign body, which was the tooth, was still in his body. They took it out and they gave it to his brother. I think his brother had the physical evidence of the tooth itself. What was shocking was how the whole thing unfolded and how it could have been prevented. I'm sure that the brother would give you more details onto the pieces that are left out from the story, but it's a puzzling and confusing story that someone could rely on medical professional to give him a guarantee or give him some kind of assurance that he was fine, only to die from the same thing that he was trying to avoid in the first place. So this is a long and short of the story, George.
Yeah, and we're going to hear some more, but this time we're going to hear it from the Good Samaritan. This is the gentleman who was with the young man when he passed away. Why don't you pick it up from there, Alvin? You tell me what happened that this happened at night. You found the guy at night.
Early at morning.
Early morning?
Early morning, yes.
About what time?
About minutes to 2.
Okay.
A little after 2.
All right. Tell me the story.
Well, I was on my way from playing little giraffe and dominoes, and I coming down the Bolio area. So I got a lift to reach the decal. The guy told me he was going over to over the lane, but I decided to pass through River Road because River Road is like home for me. So on my way coming down to my Stella Sports shop, I heard a loud kind of breathing with a cough. So there's a by road after my Stella Sports shop. So when I reached in the middle of the road, I saw Sandy coming out. So I stopped and asked him, I said, what is the problem with you? Is it the same thing where you had the operation on? He tell me, he say, boy, I'm having a hard time breathing. I say, you're having a hard time breathing? So why you didn't go to the hospital earlier? He told me, say, I went there several times and they tell me the doctor is not there. So I asked him, I said, you want to go to the hospital? Because his t-shirt was off. So he didn't reply, but we continued to walk. And he was coughing and breathing heavy with a big push like he was forcing. So I tell him, I say, man, you sure you didn't eat something? He said, no, this thing's sticking in his throat and he getting worse. But I just thought he was walking down the road. So we walked for about 6 minutes. When I reached the supermarket, the talk was getting, the song of his breathing was getting me kind of frightened. So I walked off in front of him. Not scorning him or what, but I just walked off. So on my way, about 10 feet away from him, I heard he shout out and called me, Jack, I'm going to die. So I run back to him. He hold on to me And he tell me, do you have a knife? I said, no, I don't have a knife. He said, I want to cut my throat. Yeah. So I had a knife on me, but I started thinking, if this man cut his throat and he die, I could go down for murder. So he asked me again, he told me, cut my throat, get something and cut my throat. I was like, Major, can't do that, sit down. So I hang on to him and I put him sit down and we start talk. So when he sit down now, I get up and I flog a ride. But the guy passed straight. I flog a next ride, passed straight. So he took his finger and stuck it in he have a kind of black spot in his throat he took the operation and he trying to bust his throat with his finger. So at the same time now, a guy come up from nowhere and the guy come and assist me. So I told the guy, I say, press on his stomach to see if you can get him to breathe. So I stop a next vehicle. The guy stopped, slowed down. When I went up to the vehicle to explain, the guy just turned off his music and he drive off. Well, there was a shopkeeper lower down. He run up and he start assisting us. By the time he assisting us now, Sandy lie down flat on the ground now. And I run towards him and hold him. And the guy Mark, just pressing on his stomach slightly. And then he tell me, he said, Jack, that is it. I'm going to die. I can't breathe no more. So, the shopkeeper said, call 911 because we didn't get no ride. And he called. Well, I called 911. And the guy pick up and he said, when I tell him the situation, he said, I'm going to put you onto the right set of people. He put me onto the hospital. A young lady pick up and she was like, can I help you? I explained to her what happening. She told me, right now we have a serious emergency here because they have an accident, so they cannot send the ambulance. I told him, I said, someone is dying here. And if you all don't come, he's going to die because he can't breathe, and you all did an operation on him because he swallowed a teeth. And something stuck in his throat at the moment, so you all have to come. So she told me, okay, and she put on, but we've been there for the next 5 to 6 minutes again. And 2 young guys passed with a van and they stopped. And they say, once he no blood, we're going to take him. And they take him down to the hospital. Well, I sent Mark with him because I couldn't fit in the van. And I stand up there. So about the ambulance came, they asked for him. I told them I sent him down with somebody. They turned and they went back. Then about half an hour, Mark came back up and told me, Jack, the guy passed away. I told him, I said, how you mean the guy passed away? He said, the guy, when they reached the hospital, they put him out on a wheelchair. And they telling him, get up, walk, man, help yourself. You have to walk. So I turned and tell Mark, I say, come on. They telling the guy that. Mark say, just watch him and move him with a dead guy and telling him to get up and walk. Then I saw the guys, the 2 little guy who give him the ride a day or 2 after, and they tell me when they reach the hospital, they had to blow before somebody come out. And when they do come out, he was already dead. So and his pants, we put him in a vehicle, like his pants rolled down. And I was telling him, come on man, help yourself, get up and walk. And I don't understand what really went on, you understand? But I know he told me his throat, something was blocking his throat. That's why he asked me to cut it. You understand? And to me, he couldn't breathe, so his lack of air, so that's why he died.
And you were with him?
I was with him. Well, it was me, Mark, and Kingsley, guy who owned the shop, and the next one called Simon here. We all was there. But I was the first one, and I was there with him most of the time. I was the one he really was talking to. Yeah, when he could have talked.
You said that he called the hospital on a number of occasions.
I say he went.
Went to the hospital on a number of occasions.
Yeah, while he was walking down the street, he told me that.
And
They told him the doctor wasn't there. So that
on more than one occasion.
Yes.
You know, this is unbelievable. It really is. And by the way, just let me say this. I'm glad that you guys we're going to be talking to another gentleman in just a minute. This gentleman here, let me turn the camera around. This is his brother, actually. And good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thanks for having us.
And
Having me, rather.
please accept our condolences. I decided that while I wanted you guys to come and talk about this, I like to get different perspectives and hear the other side of the story. So I decided to I wanted a doctor, a medic. I spoke to one doctor in particular, and his response was that he was going to try and get another doctor who might be in a better position to speak on this particular issue. I never heard from him again, so I contacted him again. And I was told that no other doctors were willing to come and discuss this matter. The doctor I was speaking to, somebody I know, and I got the feeling that, you know, he would be willing to have a chat with us this morning. But unfortunately, doctors can't just go out and speak. They have to get permission from the higher-ups. And the higher-ups did not grant permission for this doctor to speak. So as a result, we do not have any medical representation here this morning. Okay, they are aware of this particular case. They are aware. And somehow it just didn't surprise me that nobody is willing to come talk about this. Raphael, let me start with you here. What's your reaction to what has happened, sir, to your brother?
It's a shocking time, it's a trying time in the circumstances to which my brother had died, passed away. It left an opening for situations to be remedied. In other words, there are a lot of lessons here to be learned futuristically in terms of the medical, in terms of person-to-person relation towards situations, you know. So it's really bothersome on one side, and yet still it leaves opening for futuristic improvement in circumstances such as these.
Are you hopeful?
Well, with God by our side, and I must say, in some regard, legislation can heal some of the wounds that patient faces at times.
Yeah. The reaction of your family, your mom and dad, and your brother's dad?
Yeah, it's like I say, it's trying time for the family, and I must say that we are very grateful for the effort that has been showered down in a positive way towards our brother, and the way persons try seriously at times. Mr. George did the marathon to raise funds. Persons in the medical field may have tried seriously to remedy him or bring life to him and bring him back to normalcy after he has swallowed that tooth.
You know, I'm almost speechless. Let me get Junior back in here for a minute. Junior, what has been the reaction to that program that you did? Was there an outcry?
So I didn't hear the last part of the question.
Was there an outcry? What was the reaction to the program you did?
Wow. Well, once we, from the first story that we aired with STEPHAN, immediately a lot of people gravitated to him. He was a very likable person. So immediately he sort of became a family, a ride-along family. And people continue to ask us to update them on his progress. So of course, when he passed away, a lot of people was angered by the fact that what we try so hard to help with, it end up like almost, it really did not work. The idea was to have him well, have him do the surgery so he could live a longer life. And when it came, we heard of his passing. I mean, everybody was angered. I mean, just the video that we uploaded on his passing, it went viral over probably over 50,000 views, because people feel so passionate about something like that happening to someone next door. What's next, you know? So people are angered. People are angry about what happened here. And George, as you said, I really hope that we did have a medical professional on the program that we could ask the question, what really happened? What was supposed to happen? What's the normal procedures of things like that? And why wasn't it put in place? People are angered because what happened to a follow-up? Like if someone was given a surgery, what happened to follow-up to see how the progress was? What happened to that? Was that done? If so, you know, did they still see the foreign body? Did they just ignore that it was there? What really happened? I mean, this is so much this is breakdown on so many different levels there, George. It's a breakdown, and I would really like to hear someone on that side of the medical field to really talk to us and give us some information as to why this happened. Look at the family. They have to go through this next week or so, burying STEPHAN, you know, and that's something that they expected. So, George, it just angered every single person, not only in Grenada, but around the world.
You know, Junior, I agree with you. This would have been an excellent opportunity. There are so many horrendous stories about what goes on at the hospital that I thought this would be a really good opportunity for them to come forth and, you know, if even there was some sort of culpability, to at least give some explanation as to why what happened, you know. But to just thumb their noses at me, I didn't bother calling the Minister of Education because I've been trying to reach him for a couple of years now, and I just haven't been successful. And I've got a lot more important things to do than, you know, go chasing after people who have no interest in anything that I have to say. So I just ignored that. But I had hoped that somebody from the medical fraternity, a genuine doctor, and the person I spoke to was no intern. This is a senior medical officer I was speaking to. But he was not allowed to come talk with us. And that, I think, is going to open the eyes of the Grenadian people even wider to what they already know is happening at the General Hospital.
It's a sad situation, George. I don't mean to cut you. I have to run really quickly. I just saw something unfolding that I got to take care of. But George, the video speaks for itself. Yeah, I'm sure you have a copy of it. People could take a closer look at it. You have the family there that could give you more details on it. And it's just a sad situation. I just want to see something like that never happen again. And things have to be put in place so that it never happen again. We need answers to why this happened and how things like that could be invented. Okay,
Thanks.
George, sorry to rush you, but I just saw something unfolding that I really need to take care of. So I apologize for
Understand that you got to go, but please accept my appreciation for the work that you're doing, bringing a lot of these things to light as well. Take it easy, Junior.
Thank you so much, George.
All right. All right. Junior George there is speaking to us from New York, and back here now you're looking at a gentleman by the name Raphael Sandy. He is the brother of the young man this week. And just over here to his right is Alvin Redhead, who is the person in whose arms this young man died.
Yes.
Folks, pardon me? Yeah, let me hear you.
One thing, the doctor who did the autopsy spoke to me in relation to my brother and his passing.
I'm anxious to hear that.
He went through some terminology to which I'm not too preview of.
Right.
But in layman language, what he told me is that apart from he never even mentioned about the tooth with regards to the death of my brother, because he in his analysis that he to him did not cause the death of my brother. What he said was that my brother had a heart condition, whereby having the heart not being able to perform its function adequately, simply because for the part that there was there was a coat of blood around the heart, leaving the heart not being able to perform its function adequately. So as a result, the heart was sort of in a nutshell scenario. So distributing oxygen and so on to the parts of the body was inadequate because of that ailment to which the doctor spoke of.
STEPHAN.
Yeah.
If that's the case, explain to me, what is the difficulty in coming and sitting next to you guys here this morning and say, hey folks, this is what happened. Like I suggested a little while ago, you know, I'm not a medic, neither are any of you.
Never, not I.
Why can't these people speak out to the Grenadian people? It's a matter of sheer disrespect for the Grenadian people. They need to know what's happening. Let me, hold on a sec. Okay, go ahead. Say what you want to say. I want to read some comments on Shout.
I mean, I'm in no field of medical situation, but as I tell you, I was there, the man was in my arms, and the man told me, it's his throat just blocked. Air cannot come out, something tight in his throat, blocking his air. So that's all he keep stressing on, this thing blocking his throat, and he need his throat to cut so he could breathe. There was nothing like he was feeling no pain in his lower stomach or anything. It's just something lock his throat. That's all he consists on. This thing block his throat and he pushing his finger down in the hole, trying to bust his throat for him, the throat for himself. So when somebody tell me, they say it's heart attack the man got, and I know what the man tell me. But as I said,
and you were with him when he died?
Yeah, and as I say, he had no pain. We talked for a while. We talked about 6 minutes before he really stopped, because he told me he can't go no more. He's breathing. It's like coughing. Every time he cough, the thing go up like one block. So he reached a point where no air was coming out now. So this heart problem, I don't want to say he didn't tell me that.
Bob Marishow says, you are scaring me, making this thing look so conspiratorial. If the government is caught, it would be very embarrassing to them. To use one politician's phrase, they would get licks. Ernesto Jose says, are we that heartless? No vehicles to stop to assist that helpless person, and the vehicle that stopped drove away when a life could have been saved? He also says, my condolences to the family. Tessa Barry says, so who's to be held accountable for this after a surgery? Ernesto says, I'm scared to bring my children over to Grenada. If we're that heartless in Grenada, from the vehicle owners to the hospital, or make sure I have the money to jump on the next plane back to the USA. Roel Filbert says, was the ENT doctor credentials verified? And were the surgeons made any effort to establish a surgical airway or tracheostomy? TRACHESO, tracheostomy, whatever. Margaret says, no member of the medical fraternity will show up because they all, oops. Yes, so comments just disappeared. Hold on a sec. You know me already. I'm very persistent. I'm going to go elsewhere and see if I can grab them. Hang on a sec, pilgrims. Hang on a sec. Hang on a sec. Georgie doesn't give up that easily. We're coming to the end of the program, but you better believe it. Hang on a sec here. Hang on a sec. Boy, what a morning this has been, I'll tell you. Click, 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 click. Okay. I think we're just about there. Was the ENT doctor's credentials verified, and was the surgeons made any effort to establish a surgical airway? Margaret Francis says, no member of the medical fraternity will show up because they all cover up for each other. Claude Putnam says, George, when you hear about incidents like that, it makes one get angry. Why? Because that young man's life could have been saved. Do we health care in Grenada? Whatever. Jacinta Spice Planning says, we have to start to hold people accountable. Only then will we get answers or explanations. Margaret Francis says, and the reason why the nonsense will continue is because nobody is held accountable for these heinous crimes, because that is what they are. Crimes against Grenadians. Kipling Francis says, regardless of what happens, bad as it may be, there are those, for whatever reasons, would defend the administration. It's sad, but that's the way it was, and will always be. I hope you're wrong, Kipling. Claude Putnam says, I don't believe the doctor. Okay, Raphael? Joey C. Smith says, after listening to the gentleman and young lady about Grenada's economy, why things like this are allowed to happen. God help the people of Grenada. Earl Joseph Maitland says, God is great. We will overcome one day. Yes, Earl, we will. Yvonne Joseph says, sorry, George, I don't believe what the doctor that did the surgery, I don't believe what the doctor that do the surgery after he died said to his brother. Doctors cover for doctors. They are covering up. I don't believe the patient had a heart problem. Marisol Weissy Joseph says, this is sad. Ryan Jabon says, sad, real sad. Gentlemen, I'm glad that you've been able to sit here and hear how the people out there feel about what this has happened. Okay? Accept my condolences. I get a sense, Raphael, that you are a believer in God. Yeah, He'll carry you through this, my friend. And Jack?
Yes.
Alvin?
Yes. Jack.
Alvin, Jack, Alvin.
Jack.
God has seen your work. That's what He called you to do, to be a witness to this. Thank you very much. My dear friends, on that note, we're going to pull the curtain down. We're 20 minutes over time already. Yay. Please forgive me, pilgrims. But I'm sure you do understand. Arthur Langine says, my sympathy goes out to the family and friends of Mr. Sandy. I hope that the people's eyes will open. Folks, you know, there are a lot of people who need to provide some explanations for what's going on in this country. But for some reason, they seem to be getting away with not providing those explanations. Mark my words, the longest rope has an end. Pilgrims, may the good Lord bless and keep you. And thank you very much for joining me for today's program. By the grace of God, we'll see you tomorrow morning for the next edition of Good Day Grenada. So long.